Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Director Watch, an AwardsWatch podcast that attempts to get inside the mind of cinema's greatest auteurs, explore what drives them, and maybe we go on a few unrelated tangents along the way. I'm Ryan McQuade, executive editor here at AwardsWatch, and joining me as always is my partner, my co-host, Jay Ledbetter.
It's very odd. I can't believe we haven't done the whole series, but I will say Angels in America is my favorite Angels in the Outfield sequel. So I'm glad we've gotten there. Maybe we'll cover the others as time goes on, but this is probably the best one, honestly.
Is this
even
like
better than the original.
You think so?
I think so.
Would JGL be in this? Why was he in this?
He was a little guy in
He was flying
in the Outfield.
He was flying. He's doing it. He's doing it. We're all doing it here, folks. Everybody out there is listening to the show already.
Angel wings.
He's flapping angel wings. Oh my God. I can't believe I knew.
What a tasteful start to this conversation.
It's just us here, Jay. It's not, we've had guests this entire series, but this is a bonus episode. This was asked by our listeners for us to do a bonus episode during the end of this Mike Nichols series that we wrapped up last week. I think it's
necessary.
Yeah, I think it is too. Talking about Angels in America, a very big piece of Mike Nichols's filmography,
incredibly important
career, right?
I would argue it is either the second or third most important piece of his filmic legacy.
I'd say it's number 2.
I think I would probably agree with you. So it's Graduate, this, Virginia Woolf.
Yeah. And then Birdcage.
Yeah, I think that's it. But I think the 3 stand kind of head and shoulders.
Yeah. And then the fourth spot on Mount Rushmore is interchangeable.
Yeah, it's probably Birdcage, but there's
an argument for working girl.
Yeah,
for Day of the Dolphin.
Yeah, Day of the Dolphin, of course. What planet are you from?
What planet? Actually, that's it. There you go.
Yeah, a movie that people don't even know exists.
Is that on Gary Shandling's Mount Rushmore?
I think that is on his Mount Badmore. Is that a thing?
Yeah. Well, when he passed, it was the Larry Sanders Show, right? That was what everybody.
That's his thing, yeah, and his stand up.
That's his legacy.
Yeah, Larry Sanders is probably the.
But when you say my Nichols's legacy, you say The Graduate, and you say probably Angels in America.
I think so.
Yeah,
and I think we'll talk about what's so crazy about this. And this was the first time I've watched this. Hand up, first time I've watched it.
Been a long time since this is my full complete watch. I've seen episodes, clips, not in a full sit. Watch the entire thing.
What I was so amazed by was how it sets the table for so many shows that come after it. It does feel sort of like a template for a lot of the best shows of the last 20 years, which is very cool.
I mean, this is. The miniseries did exist, but I do think for the modern miniseries, this is the template for.
It's expensive, it's big, it has movie stars, and it also is very formally interesting. I mean, the thing I kept thinking about was one of my favorite shows of all time, The Leftovers.
Yeah,
and I was like, it's very cliche to say something like Angels in America walked so the leftovers could run, but that's not true. It's kind of like Angels in America broke the land speed record so that the leftovers could tie it. That's what is kind of going on. I do think this is in a lot of ways, a pretty monumental work.
Yeah.
And one that I'm excited to, one, have seen, and two, to talk about. And I'm happy to give, as a straight white guy in his 30s, the definitive take on Angels in America.
Well, I'm glad that you're here to do it.
People have been clamoring for it.
Well, this is part of those early 2000s where there were too many series, I think, Jay, for the modern era HBO sort of just had that were huge in terms of what they meant for the existence of the miniseries going forward for HBO. These are flagship miniseries, and that is Angels in America in 2003, but 2 years before, Band of Brothers. Like that
Band of Brothers. I mean, Sopranos, obviously not a miniseries, but
well, the series that Well, I mean, if
It
you
brought them legitimacy.
well, they had The Sopranos was on at the time, Oz was on at the time, 6 Feet Under was on, The
When
Wire,
was The Wire? That was right before this?
2002 to 2008.
Yeah.
So like right in that sweet spot of maybe some of the greatest television shows ever made,
Hmm.
and these being two of the greatest miniseries ever made. Period.
Yeah.
Because obviously the miniseries was event television, and the biggest one ever is Roots, like that. But that's on network television
And that was what, 20 years
20
before?
years before this, and it was so revolutionary though.
It was
And
huge.
yet but the TV movie sort of dominated for a long time, and then I think HBO is a perfect place and sort of built then for the streamers. Like the streaming platforms owe this era
Yeah.
of
Now
HBO
everything's a freaking
everything.
miniseries.
Everything is a miniseries. Everything's 8 episodes too
Even
long.
White Lotus, I know there's been 3 seasons, but it's just 3 miniseries.
Yeah, but I mean, it's connected by maybe one or two characters,
Yeah, but
right?
it's 3 miniseries. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
well,
With threads
I mean, like
and similar themes, but the cast completely changes out. Except
mostly,
for
yeah,
one
one or
or
two,
two.
and
Yeah.
that's the thing is that why they put them in the miniseries or in the drama categories now instead of the miniseries is because then people don't category fraud and try to steal a bunch of Emmys when every single year, as opposed to when you change characters. You know what I mean? That's continuity, buddy. You know what I mean?
You gotta
So
have continuity.
you
But
gotta
I
have
mean, God,
continuity.
just look at all the stuff recently. I mean, like Sharp Objects.
God, that's good.
It's so good.
So
What, like
good.
The Night of? I really liked that.
Did you like the night of?
Watchmen. I was a fan of The Night of.
Were
I
you?
wasn't a huge fan of where it ended up.
Yeah.
I was a fan of the journey, maybe not the destination. I mean, you could
Chernobyl.
go through so many. Mayor of Easttown,
Did you watch Chernobyl?
Chernobyl. Never seen Chernobyl, you
You,
know?
dude, yeah,
Doesn't
that's.
that, it feels like something I would freaking love.
Did you watch? Do you watch the David Simon ones? Like,
What, like
We own the
We
city,
Own the
or
City? He did what, Treme?
yeah, he did.
That's like a show.
Show Me a Hero, the Oscar Isaac one.
Oh yeah.
That was
No, I
really good.
watched half of We Own the City, and then I would have kept watching it, but my wife was like, "I'm sick of this," and I was
Did
like,
you watch?
"All right, on to the next thing."
Did you watch Penguin? Have you watched Penguin?
I have not watched Penguin. Is it
I watched
good? Like, is it
dude. It's
actually
good.
good?
It's good.
Yeah, I believe it. It's Colin
I.
Farrell.
It's
He's
Colin
he's
Farrell.
good.
He's gonna probably win an Emmy for it. Come
Yeah, good
on,
for him.
I'm the Penguin. You know what I mean? He's good. Christine Milioti's really great on it too.
And
Well,
then
you
like
like,
Big Little Lies was kind of supposed to be a miniseries, then it was
and
so
then
popular that they kept it going.
yeah, went a really bad second season. I really
Yeah.
got mixed feelings on that second season. Though Meryl's really good.
True Detective is basically a collection of miniseries.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they run that all in the miniseries categories now.
Every single one.
Yeah,
Oh, that's funny.
because they're different characters.
Entirely different characters.
Yeah, they're not the same.
I haven't watched every season of True Detective because I'm not a lunatic, but
I have.
you've watched every season of True Detective.
I just watched the Foster one last year. It was great.
I think I only got through 2.
You got stuck on the Vince Vaughn and
I
Colin Farrell.
heard 3 is actually good.
Yeah, the Mahershala season. It's good.
Yeah.
And then this one's good too. It's Jodie.
Interesting.
It's Jodie Foster.
Okay.
That's the thing. If you get a really good veteran actor that I'm just like in the bag for, I can get through maybe a couple of plot things not working out.
I'll take
But
your
it's
word for it.
got John
Mahershala,
Hawkes. John
what's
Hawkes.
going on?
Well, he's gonna be in that new Jurassic movie,
He sure is.
and then they can't get the Blade movie made at Marvel.
I feel like that has basically been shelved.
I don't think it's gonna ever happen.
I agree with you.
And if it does, it ain't gonna be with him. You know what I mean? It's gonna be, you know what? It's gonna be the MCU's new Gambit.
Man, I am just looking at his post
It's bleak.
Green Book. It is tough.
Win those 2 Oscars, and then you haven't been able to get anything ever since.
I just can't believe that.
Underrated.
Has he been in TV beyond True Detective? He's got some stuff. What is Rami or Rami?
Oh, it's like the
Hulu?
Rami Youssef show.
Oh,
You know who Rami Youssef is? The comedian. He was in Poor
vaguely.
Things. He was in Poor Things.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Now
yeah,
you're
yeah.
figuring it out. There you
He's
go. Helping
a
you out.
supporting character in that show.
Yeah, for like the second season. There's like two seasons. It was basically like a Masters of None
And
sort of
he, oh
situation.
God.
Yeah, I know, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. I feel like I let you down right there.
He
Just
played a
kind of letting
character
you.
in Madden NFL 18. He played Cutter Wade.
I don't know what any of that means. Also underrated miniseries, Olive Kittredge. It's with Frances McDormand,
Mm,
Richard Jenkins, Zoe Kazan, Bill Murray, Jesse Plemons,
how about that?
and it's got a Rachel Brosnahan's in it too, John Gallagher Jr. and Brady Corbet,
Oh,
Jay's
star of
guy.
Thunderbirds.
There you go. Could you imagine if Brady Corbet this whole season was like, independent cinema, da da da, but I'll be in Marvel's next big
I want
project.
to do an interview with him and just talk to him about Thunderbirds. No, not
Thunderbolts, you mean?
Thunderbolts. No, Thunderbirds.
Which one's Thunderbirds?
It's that, that old puppet like airplane movie or a show from like the 60s or 70s, Thunderbirds.
Okay. That's
He
what you want to
starred
spend your
in
time with.
he starred in a live action remake of that. He was the lead of that movie.
Oh yeah, when he was an actor.
Yeah. He was
Okay.
like a teenager
So you
or
just want to
early
probably talk
20s.
to him about a time of his life he doesn't want to probably mention at all.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair. Hey, Jay, you know what we should do?
Talk about Angels in America.
That's probably what we should do.
All right, let's do
All
it.
right.
Fine.
Um,
It's a great work.
it's a great work. Nothing to really set this up. We don't have a guest,
No.
and also we've covered the movies from this kind of era of Nichols. So, Jay, I know you do the research and everything.
Yeah.
So, were there any interesting things that you learned about this before you started putting this on? And since this is a first time watch for you, Jay, I'll ask you, what did you think of Angels in America?
Yeah, it's very exciting. Obviously, I talked about this in a previous episode. I think the closer episode, how the Angels in America had been long in development and it was going to be directed by Robert Altman and he was going to make it real weird. And then that kind of fell through in the mid 90s, I think, and eventually it kind of circled back around and they were very excited to make adapt this play into a miniseries. And sort of because of the success of Wit and how well that production went, and HBO was really happy with Mike Nichols in that moment. He ended up directing this. He had a very long lunch with Kushner, and they kind of settled on how they wanted the story to work. My understanding, having not seen the play or seen any recordings of the play or anything, I think they took out one a little bit of the plot. I think it was so robust. It is two very long plays that were produced a couple years apart from each other. And then obviously this is kind of split into two parts of three episodes. Um, but Kushner was very impressed with Nichols and they kind of vibed in a particular way. And I think the only interesting casting thing when it came to the show was that Adrian Brody was supposed to be in it. And honestly, I can't remember which character he was going to play. It might have been Pryor, potentially. I'll look that up
I think
as we
so.
go along. But he felt kind of uncomfortable with the material. He would have been coming off a little while ago. He would have been coming off of Thin Red Line. I guess he would have done um, Summer of Sam by this point, I think. I'm trying to remember exactly when that came out, but he ended up turning it down, didn't do it. And this was one of the hotter miniseries in HBO's history. Obviously, extremely controversial, very progressive. And honestly, especially when you get to the end of this movie or of this series, there's some things that are said directly to the camera that are so topical in a modern sense that it kind of blows you away. And also, you see, in relation to movies from just the last year, Roy Cohn, very important character in this movie. Ryan, maybe we'll talk about who gives the best Roy Cohn performance. I actually do want to dig into that with you. And also just
Yeah.
who MVPs of this series in general. I definitely want to talk about that. But it is, I do love the two halves of the series
Hmm.
and how the first half of the series, Millennium Approaches, is kind of about people drifting apart and entering stages of loneliness, and how the second half, Perestroika, is more about people coming together and finding understanding and forgiveness, even in the face of what many would consider unforgivable actions. I think it's a beautiful story, and it is told. Uh, we talked about during the Terrence Malick series how I am sort of spiritually curious. And as someone who is spiritually curious and kind of open to spirituality without subscribing to any particular dogma, it is fascinating to see this as both an embrace of that spirituality while also having elements of rejection of that spirituality. I'll tell you what it really reminded me of, and certainly towards the end, I think the final episode of this is one of the best pieces of television I've ever seen. And in that episode, I kept thinking of A Matter of Life and Death, like litigating heaven
Yeah.
and the value of heaven versus the value of earthly existence. And that's one of my 10 favorite movies of all time. So if you're going to remind me of one of my 10 favorite movies of all time, I'm going to love you. And I do very much love this. It is so outside of my own personal experience, but it does an incredible job of putting you inside of this world that maybe, not just maybe, but certainly many of the viewers were not familiar with. And I love that about it. I love how it is so indebted to the idea of plays with these actors playing multiple characters and occasionally really feeling like this actor showcase while also being incredibly cinematic. It never feels stagey at all. It does feel vast in ways that so many of things based on plays do not. And that is a huge credit to Nichols. And it's just incredibly impactful. It is thought provoking. It's sensitive. It is extremely well directed. There are times where you do feel, oh, this feels a little bit like television occasionally. Um, in the same way that The Sopranos can feel like television or The Wire can feel like television. And that's not entirely a knock, but it is there. But overall, what a thing this is. It's really, really great.
Yeah, it's a pretty daunting piece of text.
It's an achievement.
It very much is. And um I think the only thing that like sort of kind of holds it back a little bit for me, Jay, and why I don't think it's, I think it's great, but I don't think it's like maybe one of the greatest miniseries I've ever seen.
You're not going masterpiece.
I'm not going masterpiece. I do think some of the dialogue is like totally of its time, and of like a Tony Kushner play. It feels very much like a play at times where it's like, I don't know if any human I've ever met ever talks like this,
Yeah,
but
but that happens. You like
but it
Quentin
happens.
Tarantino, Ryan?
I know, buddy. But also I think that that's just. But then I had to remember, like I had to put myself back in HBO 2003 mode to to really like by the second half of this, like the first episode, I was like, okay, I gotta get it, I gotta get back into that mode. And then by the end, you're right, like it hits you with such a crescendo in that final episode, that and all these characters sort of interweaving, and everything about the themes of what this show is trying to present in terms of, you know it's not, it's about love and it's about loss. and it's about forgiveness, and it's uh, and it's in the face of even hard, having not the ability to forgive others. I think like one of the centerpiece scenes in this entire series is the Roy Cohn scene in the hospital with Jeffrey Wright, right? And he's telling him, how to get the real medication, right? And not the
Every scene with
placebos.
Roy Cohn in the hospital is like unbelievable.
Yeah, because it's like if even you don't have to watch The Apprentice this year. Just Google Roy Cohn. You
Yeah.
know that every problem in this country
McCarthyism.
right
Yeah.
now, or ever was involved with that asshole. You know
Talk
what I
about a
mean?
man who has done nothing but bad for the United States of America.
His fucking
And then at the end,
legacy
you have
is
two
still going.
liberals
Yeah,
trying to not redeem him, but forgive him in a cosmic sense,
yeah,
which is so powerful. It's so powerful.
and it's bigger than any of the things that he's done. You know what I mean? And because to carry that for them it's worse than what he's done to them.
Yeah, it's not
And
forgiving him for anything that he's actually done on Earth, but forgiving him as a soul, I guess.
as
It's
an entity of evil in a way, like,
it's
yeah,
just forgiving him as a thing with potential for any goodness inside of him.
because
It's
of the
like
power that he
this
has.
is
Yeah,
somewhere at the deepest depths of your evil soul,
yeah, and it's
and we're
he,
trying to recognize that in some way.
yeah, and um I think you're right too. I think we're gonna have to talk about MVPs because I think, and then when we get to your
It's like an all-star game.
it's an all-star game. Only the players wanted to play here. You know what I mean?
It's
Sorry.
not the NBA
It's
all-star
not
game.
the NBA
It's
All-Star game where
the
they're just though I think like Meryl shouldn't, man, would love to see Meryl Streep play like a street game of basketball and shoot threes. Um,
Meryl Streep should have been in the celebrity all-star game.
but she was at the SNL thing, so she
She
couldn't do that.
was. So was
It was a
everybody.
busy night. Yeah, man.
Pacino was too, right?
No,
I
Pacino, I
think
don't know. Was Pacino there?
he was
I didn't see,
definitely at the concert the night
was he?
before.
Oh,
I know
okay.
he was at that. I'm not sure if he was at the
Jay, did
actual.
you see that Jack was there?
Yeah, yeah. He introduced
Sandler, Sandman.
yeah, Sandler.
Little anger management reunion there, buddy.
How awesome was that to see Nicholson in any capacity at all?
It made me tear up.
He
It did.
was he's what, 80, 85, 87?
Yeah, and then like watching Paul Simon saying that he's 83, McCartney singing he's 82,
That
and
was
you just like,
very funny when Sabrina Carpenter said
nope.
when he said, what, I played Homeward Bound in 1975, and she
Yeah.
said, I wasn't born then, neither were my parents.
Jay,
That was good stuff.
you do also know that that's not her name. Her name is,
What did I call her?
you called her Nicolette Johnson.
Nicolette Johnson. You will never forget that.
Nope,
You know that off the top of your head forever.
it was a good joke. It's one of the best ones you've ever done. It's the way you delivered it too on that episode.
She's
Uh,
gotten so big that I will never forget her name again. And also because of that thing. So no, that was very funny by her though. Or the right,
but
I mean, obviously the writers who wrote it for her, but
but
very
anyway,
funny.
I think that, you know, weirdly for a show that's 20 years old now, while some of its elements um, have been discussed and rehashed, and obviously the play's been redone multiple times, it still feels very vital, and it feels very weird to
Oh yeah.
watch this now. I think at our most socially, politically divided,
Hmm.
right? And to watch a show about forgiveness makes you kind of sit here and go like, yeah, none of this is going to ever happen. That's why this is a work of fiction.
It
Yeah.
is crazy.
but at this time, I mean, this is set, in what, the 80s, right? This is set like in the mid 80s, 85.
84, 85.
Yeah, and
The Reagan
it's
era, right
released
in the
during the
middle.
Bush administration post 9/11, and
Right.
and it's a I think just a fascinating text about our world and yeah, man, really forgiveness. Like I think that that's like the fundamental word of this piece by the end, and then how to move on, and how to keep moving, and finding a community and finding people that may have at one time not seen you, but then you never know who that person that sees you is going to be, right, Jay?
Yeah.
And then it's really
God,
about then.
when Meryl Streep, Hannah at the end is hanging out with all of them at the fountain, forget about it,
Well,
man.
her
I mean,
enlightenment, well,
it's incredible.
that enlightenment piece with her and the angel played by Emma Thompson, it's so visually
Emma
just like
Thompson kicks ass in this.
she's
She is
fucking
so
serving in
good.
this in the entire time. Um, I don't. I think it would be hard to find the bad
I
performance
was about to
of the
ask, is
ensemble.
anybody not good in this? I
I
don't
have
think so.
one person.
Okay, all right, hit me.
I don't understand, and she got a lot of attention for
Oh,
it.
Mary Louise?
Mary Louise Parker.
I think she's great in this.
I think she's okay. I think she's the least interesting character
Okay,
on of the bunch. And
interesting.
she's also like it's not the most flashy. Everybody else has got to do this. And I don't know. Maybe it's just because Mary Louise Parker's played Mary Louise Parker pretty much in every show she's ever been in.
Mm,
And I mean, I watched her in
shade
Weeds. I watched her
thrown
on
at
West
Mary
Wing. I
Louise
watched her on
Parker.
this
In my
movies.
opinion, important person.
Really, Mary Louise Parker is an important person for you?
Big time.
Oh,
Very much my type.
so you should have been. You were very happy in this
I was in the
episode.
bag, yeah, for her in this show.
But
And also, I think there's one scene in particular where she gives an incredible performance.
I think she's got a scene or two, but in terms of the totality of the entire series, I think I'm focused more on the
Well, she's
story or
playing such an airy, her whole character is being high on antidepressants,
yeah, I know.
like the whole time. Or not antidepressant, but something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's a little on the nose. I mean, she's doing the best she can. I
I mean,
just
her
think if you're
whole arc
gonna
is
give me
being high and seeing visions.
yeah, or and then also
But
like
we get
Patrick,
Mr. Lies from that,
yeah, which is
which
I
is
mean
totally worth it.
but that's the thing is like Jeffrey Wright's killing it every scene that is
Yeah.
alongside
God,
her, and
he's so good.
he's so fucking good at this show. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. He's yeah, Jeffrey Wright, one of the best actors we have working today. Period.
I really do think so. When's he bad?
I mean, he's not. You know, it took when he got American Fiction. That took him that long to get finally an Oscar nom.
It's
It's
ridiculous.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But yeah, no, I really like the show. I really do. And the experience of it was I'm not it's hard to articulate because there's so much. And it's so big. Weirdly, I need to watch it. In a couple of years probably watch it again, you know, to kind of I know that sounds weird, right? You want to go and sit and watch 6 more hours of this again, but I don't know. I feel like it's one that like will age for me better over time because I think that that's what this show has done for so many people, and it hits differently. But I did feel like, man, should are we going to be okay? Like, because I think like right now going on in
No,
the
but I
world
think
today,
the
Jay,
show
like
is
it's
about how we're going to be okay.
okay, right? Like so I got that, and I think that that's a
And I'm not sure
success.
that we'll ever be great, but we're going to be okay.
But have we ever been great? Is the other question.
I don't know. That red hat you got on right now.
God damn it. I was just borrowing it for you for a little bit. Um, uh, no, I mean, like watching it right now, right, in our current climate of probably being the most separated since an era like this, right? Afraid
Yeah, but this is
of
even
everybody.
it,
But
it
this
was
is
even
even,
different back then because
yeah,
it's not just being separated, it's having this
it's about being
neo
lone.
plague,
Yeah.
right? Where people are just dying.
Yeah. And then through that, I mean, what happens to, I think what Lewis does to Pryor it happened to so many
One
people where,
of the most awful things that you could do
yeah,
to a person. It's so
someone's
bad.
literally on their deathbed and
Yeah.
you are
And he
just abandons them
abandons him just out of pure convenience, really.
in pure, yeah, well, convenience, but then also really what
Resentment, a little bit.
resentment, explanation, fear, multiple emotions going through the decision and and just not being able to really handle it.
If
It's
anybody is the main character of the show, it's Pryor, right? You agree with that?
I don't know. I think we spent a lot of time with Joe.
There's a
I
lot
mean,
of Joe.
there's a lot of Joe, there's a lot of Pryor, and there's a lot of Lewis. And so it's really weird then to, like not to spoil the award stuff, but that like Al Pacino's put in the lead category and everybody else is put in supporting here. And I'm like,
Wait, is that right? I
mm-hmm,
didn't. I mean,
yeah,
we're not going to do the awards thing with me this episode, but Pacino got lead
yeah, yeah. Because Roy,
just because he was Pacino.
and I think I think so. Yeah. I think name only,
Yeah,
which is fucking
man,
ridiculous.
category fraud has
Yeah,
never
big
been
time. Hey,
worse than that.
put me in lead,
But
you know,
Pacino, oh my God, he's good in this.
from the first time he's on screen. You're like, holy shit, why aren't you doing this more? Like Al, like this is in a level of commitment.
He's going big.
He's going big, but
This is
it's not,
definitely 2000s Pacino. He's
yeah,
going
but
big.
I mean, okay. Pacino's gone big for like 30 years.
Right. He's gone big
Since Scent of
since
a Woman.
Scent of a
He's
Woman.
since
Occasionally, he's
Hua,
gone
you know,
a little more
he gets a
chill
little
every
soft.
now and then.
But his best is when he's able
But
to find the
85% of the time, yeah, he's going, wow.
yeah, but I think wait, how did you do it? Trying to whisper it. It's
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
No, I
But
nailed it.
no, but his best roles when he goes big are when he's able to control it somehow and find moments inside of that bigness to go small. I think of The Irishman and I think of this.
Oh, yeah.
Like this is like he goes big at times, but when
The Insider.
the inside, well, yeah, but that's I guess that
That
is
was
post, yeah,
post
yeah.
Scent of the Woman.
So is Keat, like you know what I mean, like where he's big for most of it, but you remember the moments
Oh,
when
there
he
are
goes
times. Yeah.
where he goes low and it hits and it
Oh,
knocks
I'm
you the fuck
sorry that
out.
the chicken was undercooked.
Oh man, we really got to do that movie one of these days because
We got it. He's
it's the
one of my
best.
all-time faves.
Man,
Yeah, man.
you know what I was thinking about the other day? Not just side tangent. I was thinking about Ferrari the other day.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
It's a great movie. I was just thinking about like all those heads flopping off. Um,
God, that scene is truly
crazy.
astounding.
Yeah, it's my mouth was on the floor and I watched it, and I was like, wow,
Yeah.
he really went there. Good for you.
Man,
Good for you,
Pacino's
Mikey.
Pacino's 21st Century is pretty dire.
You want to run it down?
I mean I can.
Let's do it.
Insomnia, he's very good in 2002.
I'm a little sleepy in here.
And then I mean right before that 99 Any Given Sunday, he's going massive in that one. I mean the
Football
other
is a
the other
game
stuff
of
he's got
inches.
going on. I mean, I could run down all of them and just show you some really depressing stuff. I mean, it's like The Recruit, Geely, Merchant of Venice, 88 Minutes, Righteous Kill, Jack and
Righteous kill.
Jill,
Oh,
Manglehorn,
Dungarcino.
which was kind of his attempt at
Is that the one where I made
trying to do an
keys?
Oscar thing. That's
Yeah,
David Gordon Green movie.
yeah. Danny Collins.
Danny Collins.
Yeah,
Oh God. Misconduct. I don't even know what that is. The Pirates of Somalia, Hangman.
yeah.
Then he kind of gets back where he's working with real guys. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Irishman, House of Gucci,
Oh, Hazaguchi.
Chiguchi. Knox Goes Away. Which one is that? Oh, that's the Michael Keaton movie.
That's me and the Keats.
It's getting back to being a little tough.
This
What
was
is
on.
the Ritual? What is that?
Ooh,
That's
a
a
horror movie.
horror
I don't
movie.
I don't know.
XYZ Films
I don't know. I was just saying
sounds
it might
pretty
have.
good.
Uh,
I don't know. He is
it does look. It
probably
actually is a horror movie. I'm actually.
no, no,
I
you're
was.
not wrong.
I was thought I was full of shit, but
Is he the actor of the 70s?
he's and it's got Dan Stevens in it too.
No.
Man, talk about a guy that doesn't have the goods. Or
I really like
he
Dan
has the.
Stevens.
I like him too, but man, show me that you got the goods outside of like B-level horror movies and Eurovision for Christ's sake.
Who is the actor of the 70s?
Of the 70s,
Yeah.
Elliot Gould. I don't know.
I mean, Pacino is in the running.
Jack?
Might be Jack.
Jack?
But I mean,
But yeah, his 70s run is ridiculous. It's like
Panic in Needle Park, Godfather, Godfather
Father
2,
2,
Serpico,
Co,
Dog Day Afternoon, and Justice for
for
All.
all. It's an incredible run.
If you go to 80, you get Cruising.
Right
I
after
mean,
that, you get Scarface.
it's huge.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
I bet you could probably find somebody else, but he's definitely at the top of his game in the
When was the
70s.
last time you watched
His 80s
Serpico?
are terrible. It's been a long time since I
Dude, the
watched
movie
it.
rules.
I just think Dog Day is such a freaking masterpiece that it's like I don't think I'll ever watch Serpico instead of Dog Day, and that doesn't
No,
make any sense.
it doesn't because they're both great,
I know,
but they're
but
also they're two different types of tango,
I just think
you know?
Dog Day is oh
Dog Day is
oof.
like one of the
How
great
about Dog
performances of
Day?
all time. Yeah. But then you watch him in The Godfather, both of them. Godfather 2, he's incredible in
He's
Godfather 2.
unbelievable in Godfather 2.
It's just incredible. I watched that like in full, both parts back to back last year. And I was just like, man, this is like the greatest. Talk about a miniseries. This is like the greatest, like 7 hours of film I think you can ever put on for me, and I'd be okay with it. Like if you just said, Ryan, today I'm gonna put on Godfather 1 and 2 for you, and you're just gonna watch that. I'm like, all right, that's not a bad day. That's pretty fucking good, you know? And then you think, oh, that's the length of this miniseries that we're talking about today. It's actually more than that, probably, when you really think about it. Yeah, I would say, I mean, Pacino's up there, right? Like, and
I think Pacino's right
I
there.
think they're, yeah,
What
I
was
think,
Clint doing in the 70s? He was
oh,
doing
make my day.
Dirty Harry's.
Yeah, I'm
He was
gonna
definitely a
shoot you in the
huge
back.
star. I'm not sure that those are
I was
the
already,
greatest movies in the world.
I was already directing pictures.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. I would probably go with I'd probably go with Pacino. That's probably the smart move. Or Jack. What was Jack doing at that time?
I think it might be Jack.
When is it not Jack?
He had
Jack's still the best movie star now.
Cuckoo's Nest, Chinatown.
Those two movies alone.
Yeah, sort of.
I'm like,
I mean,
that's fine.
you're not wrong. If you go to, I mean, The Shining was 80, so you can kind of extend it to 1980.
What was Bobby doing at the time? Just
Bobby
De Niro?
D.
Yeah.
He was he only got kind of big in the
Because he had like Godfather 2
era,
and he
like
had
later half of
when he had they had Deer Hunter. You
the
know, if you
Deer
remember,
Hunter.
you know. And then he had Taxi Driver. And then 80 is Raging Bull. So that's like a credible run for him there too.
That's a good run.
And then like right after that's King of Comedy. You know?
I
So
mean, look, I think he's good at acting.
I think he's pretty good. I think you know what? Is it controversial to say that Robert De Niro, Jack Nicholson, and Al Pacino are good at acting, Jay? Did we figure that out on this bonus
I mean,
episode of this show?
it's kind of hard. Nicholson, Five Easy Pieces, Carnal Knowledge, Last Detail, Chinatown, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Name a bad fucking movie.
And then
there.
if you go to 80, it's The Shining. And there's a bunch of not quite as big, but still highly regarded, like The Passenger.
Yeah.
Um, you know, several other things. I mean, he was on a heater, no doubt about it.
But Pacino's great in this. And
He is. Thank God we litigated Jack Nicholson on this episode.
I I knew the minute I saw you after that whole SNL thing, we were going to have to do Jack at a certain point. So I'm glad we did it now here while we were talking about Pacino.
Absolutely.
But both guys who lost Best Actor to Art Carney in The Godfather 2 Chinatown year.
I
So
mean,
just
deserved.
not deserved. What are you talking
I
about?
haven't seen that movie, so I'm just assuming it was deserved.
Why? Because it's the Oscars.
Yeah, I love the Oscars.
They always get it right.
Yeah, they always get it right.
But he's incredible here, and I mean, like the first. I mean, it was also interesting watching the series, Jay. I know that you hinted at it earlier, but it was interesting watching it. I mean, obviously in the context of The Apprentice and seeing Jeremy Strong's performance earlier this year
Hmm.
or late last year, that was nominated earlier this year. But I mean, in the world we live in 2003, then we did not have a presidential candidate that he became president that he groomed, and we knew all that stuff about, and it makes this like even more
It does give it a crazy different context and also
context.
makes it I I truly think The Apprentice is going to be a
It's not going to be
completely
this. Yeah.
embarrassing artifact in 5 years.
It's already, I think, an embarrassing artifact right now.
I think it might be. It is really one of the most, oh, you guys really thought you were doing something.
But you actually
Movies of all
were
time.
being as soft as Charmin about all of this.
It's a very interesting thing, especially for the time when it came out, which I really do think they were like, we could swing the election.
But then watching it
We
now,
could do it.
though, you know, you see that grooming is with conditions and predatory because the way Pacino plays Cone in this is, I think, far less. I wouldn't say he's sympathetic in this at all.
No,
I think the
he's
other he's
pure
vile,
evil. Yeah.
and I think that just it's just a masterclass in finding a sliver of interesting humanity inside this basket of evil, and Pacino's just able to play it so well and able to keep the ruse for such a long time. And I mean, when those scenes in the hospital where Streep was playing Rosenberg
Oh
and just having those
God. Those are
conversations with,
so good.
so good. Just watching the two greatest actors, maybe of all time, going back and forth with dialogue by one of the great screenwriters and playwrights of all time. Yeah, it's and being directed by one of the great directors. It's like put it in the fucking Louvre,
What have they been
kind of
in
work.
together? Surely they've been in. And
Streep?
I might be forgetting something very, very obvious.
I don't
Streep and
think so.
Pacino.
I think that this is.
Is this it?
I mean, you can speak to Pacino as Cohn while I look this up about Meryl, but I don't believe. I think this was the first and only time they've worked together. I could be
That's
wrong. Let me check
crazy if
that
that's
out.
true, especially kind of where they were in their careers in the
Careers,
mid
and
to
that,
late 70s,
yeah, and the
early
way that
80s.
they cross paths. Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, him as Cone is really, there is this pure evil to him, but there's also this side where he kind of is making Joe realize who he truly is. And then when Joe sort of discovers who he truly is and wants to find acceptance within himself and think about how he wants to be in New York still and he wants to try and he's still got a lot of fixing within himself that he needs to do. And then Cohn is just like, you got to go to Washington so that you can save me. Roy Cohn's entire arc in this movie is trying to not get disbarred before he dies of AIDS. It is a crazy thing. And then when Ethel Rosenberg is able to tell him that he has been disbarred just before he dies, it is the ultimate comeuppance. Even though, in the grand scheme of things, it means next to nothing, it is for him the nail in his personal philosophical coffin. And that is incredibly satisfying, especially when you understand the um, context of Ethel Rosenberg, who is basically illegitimately put to death during the Red Scare of the 1950s, and how Roy Cohn, who died actually fairly young, which I guess you see in The Apprentice, he died at 59, um, and he is just so despicable, detestable in this series from the beginning, where he's telling his doctor, who is played by James Cromwell, who was in Wit, Mike Nichols' HBO movie that came
One of the
out
great character
not
actors
too long. Yeah,
all
he's
time.
great. Of course, the owner of Babe. That'll do, Pig. That'll do. One of the great
That'll do.
moments in cinema
Yeah,
history.
exactly.
Um, but yeah, he's really great. But weirdly, I remember him from iRobot. That's a role I remember him very specifically from. I don't know why.
I remember him
Um,
playing. He played. He was in The Queen, and I remember him having to do a British accent because he played Prince Philip in that opposite Meryl or Helen Mirren, and and I'd seen him in so many other things, obviously too, and I remember him also in L.A. Confidential,
oh yeah, of course,
and
LA Confidential.
and I just remember him being like, "What the hell is he? Is he British?" It was one of those things like, "Is he actually British?" He's
He
not.
does kind of look British
He
too.
looks very much like he's been, played a butler or two in his lifetime.
Plays George H.W. Bush in W.
He does.
So,
Another like kind of apprentice sort of like thing that we've talked about this year, you and I were like, that was released during the time of that administration. You're like, that's not going to age well either. And it didn't.
yeah, that one I think is actually less embarrassing. I don't know why
It
I
is still
find
embarrassing. It's Oliver Stone. Of course it's
it's
embarrassing.
such a weird thing to try, whereas I think The Apprentice is such an embarrassing thing to try.
At least
But
with Stone, he has like a point of view and a
yeah, I guess
disdain
I don't
for his
I don't
subject. I
know.
don't
Look, I'm
know.
not gonna sit here and be the ultimate W defender,
I don't
but
know. Kind of, what is that? A poster behind you on your wall? W?
but Cromwell, he's just one of those guys who made a movie every year and was just
He's in like what, three scenes
really
of this?
good.
But it's great. But like there are
Oh
just
man, his best scene is when he goes to the hospital and he's like, "Trust me, this is the floor he needs to be on.
trust me,
This isn't the cancer floor. Trust me, this is the floor he needs to be on."
yeah. And
And
Jeffrey
that's
Wright's
really
like,
good.
all right, I
And
guess.
Cromwell is like the 12th lead in this movie that doesn't have that many actors in it, but here we are talking about him.
No, because he rules. Because he's great in those scenes, and it's impactful to Cohn, who it goes back to. I mean, that's just the one thing about, I guess, The Apprentice, and but it's mostly just about Trump, is that he learned from Cohn this inability to not accept defeat and not accept anything within a, like a sheer of reality of what is, and that includes their own life. Facts don't exist. So the idea of him not wanting to come
Oh
to
yeah,
terms
the
with the fact that he
distortion
is,
field.
yeah, that he's, he literally tells him, I'm not going to accept that I'm homosexual, and
Hmm.
I'm not going to accept that this is AIDS. It's liver cancer, right? Is what he says it is.
Yeah, liver cancer.
And that, you know, uh, that he's straight, but that he prefers to have intercourse with men every now and then, like, like everybody else.
Well, it's just all
And
about it's all
it's
about
all about the ego. It's all about just like
and
also
about
not one.
presentation.
Yeah, and it's also not about. It's about power. The idea of like, I'm a very powerful person. To think that I could show that in his mind as a weakness is not what how
Anything
I'm
that
going to die.
would make people question his, I
The
guess,
well,
purity or something, which
what
obviously is
question his
ridiculous, but it was in the mid 1980s. I mean, this was, the AIDS crisis is at the forefront of society, and it's making
but
everybody kind
if
of
but in the show, if you watch, I
wrongly
mean,
question.
as we're watching in the show, if Lewis can leave Pryor, right? What
Yeah,
and that's people that love each other. What will people do to Roy Cohn if they find out that he has AIDS? And that's what's in his mind. And he's already
but he's
knows what
already
it is.
fighting this disbarment.
Exactly. Well, I know, but that's what's more important to him. A disbarment is more important than saving his own life, weirdly. And then you're right. Him clearing his name and making sure that it's clean all the way until the pressers say Roy Cohn has died. And controlling the narrative even beyond the grave is it's just sad and it's sick. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's what's on your mind rather than everything. But yet
Making amends with the things that you've done and the
with the
people
sins
you've
of your
hurt.
past. Yeah.
And it's similar to Wit, which again I think is a great HBO movie. He basically never gets visited by anybody except people that he's worked with. And really it's Joe is basically the only person who visits him in the hospital. And what does he end up doing to Joe but, you know, pulling his IV out and spraying blood everywhere.
Yeah.
That's which is one of the craziest scenes I've ever seen. And also this series has one of the best Pacino lines of all time when he's talking on the phone very early in the series and he's talking about getting Broadway tickets and he said, "Oh, cats. It's about cats. You'll love it." And then he looks at Joe and he's like, "Ugh, it's garbage. Ugh, it's terrible." But Cats, it's about cats is phenomenal.
Yeah. But oh, and to go back to what I did look this up. Meryl and Pacino had never been in a movie together
That's
and
crazy.
have still never been in a movie together. This is the only project that they've ever been in.
That seems impossible, but you know what,
It's
Ryan? I believe you.
and yet Mike Nichols was the one to bring them together. Like,
Yeah. Well,
I
him
mean,
and Meryl had a great relationship.
they did.
Um,
Meryl and him talk about that this is one of the greatest things that they've ever done. And Pacino talks that one of the greatest scene partners that he's ever had was Meryl Streep in doing those moments with her.
yeah.
I mean, and I mean,
Unsurprising.
unsurprising, everybody loves Meryl Streep, who's extraordinary. Though, I will say, start of the start of the series, episode one. Uh, I
She's
totally
pulling a
she's pulling a laundromat.
yeah,
That's
she's
what
pulling
that's
a
for sure.
laundromat. It is crazy. I was watching this with my wife, and in that first scene, I was
It's
like,
literally the first
this
scene.
voice is very odd. What is going on here? And then you look at the
Look at the
rabbi
eyes.
closely enough,
Look at the
and you're
eyes.
like,
Yeah,
oh, that's
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep. Oh my God.
But I will say, at
Uh,
least for
but
the
it's a play thing.
it's a
It's
play
playing
thing.
on the idea of
It's a
people
play
in plays
thing.
playing multiple
It
characters.
also it's about these spirits being interconnected within one's life.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of Cloud Atlas going
It
on.
very much so. So that's why, like, even while it's wild makeup and prosthetics, it's not to the level of the laundromat. Where in that movie, it's a big gotcha. Here's the point.
Yeah, that movie
That's
is
rough.
insane.
Like I love
Meryl
Soderbergh,
Streep
but
in the
man,
laundromat is really one of those things where I just put my hand, like my
yeah, but
head in
it's
my
also
hands and
Soderbergh's
just,
fault too. I blame a lot
oh
on
yeah,
him.
for
It's like,
sure. Yeah,
what
yeah,
were you
yeah.
thinking, buddy? You
He
thought
put
this was
her in
really
a very
smart.
bad position and she just kind of did what she was asked to do.
Exactly. But like, no, this is very much like them playing different characters, but then also being these spirits. And it leads all up to the fact that, you know, she's the rabbi that helps, that sort of tells Lewis about his grandmother's death. She then is Hannah later in the film, and she's there at the sort of rebirth of their relationships where hope is still alive. She's a spirit throughout this entire series that evolves and changes, you know, philosophy through religion and through social and cultural acceptance to by the end being one of the core people in someone's life by the end.
Hmm.
It's a really fascinating trajectory, right? That Meryl's characters are connected to all these people. And you know, Jay, we've talked a lot about in movie series before, especially in film, about connectivity within characters and how this is such a big thing
Hmm.
really in the late 90s, early 2000s. This was a big, gigantic selling point for a lot of storytelling. And, but I felt like why Meryl's so perfect
Yeah,
for
well, you're
this.
talking about it more in the Pulp Fiction plot
Yeah,
sense, not
well,
the
and like
character
traffic
Cloud
and
Atlas
yeah, sort of
sense.
and
You know,
stuff like
this is
that.
more about the interconnectedness of souls,
But
of
it
spirit.
but it is about everyone being connected through
Yeah,
one another in
that is
different
true.
forms, and so
Yeah.
therefore type of storyline is much, I think, more is better to understand the overall points and to get to an overall message rather than just the same storylines being the same things over and over again, and and whatnot. And you're right, those sort of Cloud Atlas vibes too, to the sort of supernatural elements and religious elements to this really did vibe for me as well too. But her performance here is so incredible, and it's not, I mean, duh, it's Meryl Streep working with Mike Nichols, so of course it's going to be a very good performance. But just every ounce of, or every character that she does serves a purpose. And it's such a meaningful purpose to where we end up at the end of all of this, that it's an impeccable performance, but it's Tony Kushner's writing to get all that through in this runtime. And I think that I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, Kushner, we should probably talk about a little bit.
Tony Kush?
It is, yeah, it is hard. We talked about this with Sophia on the Working Girl episode, who she lives in New York. She can see a lot of these plays. It is very hard to understand the importance of playwrights if you don't live in New York, for the most part. But he has obviously been very successful playwright, and also, as far as filming is concerned, he's become one of Spielberg's guys, and he rules with Spielberg. He's made some of Spielberg's, he's been responsible for the screenplays of some of Spielberg's best movies. He has written for Spielberg Munich, co-written with Eric Roth, Lincoln, um, West Side Story, and The Fablemans,
He
which was
also,
co-written by Spielberg.
he also essentially created the screenplay, though took an uncredited for Fences with
Yes, I
Denzel,
did know that as well. Yeah, yeah.
which is
Which
crazy.
it is crazy. I don't love that movie, but it's actually probably the direction of that movie that I don't love. The writing is great.
That's a
That's a very play on film kind of
yeah.
movie.
Wow, way to take a shot at Denzel there. That's
I
a little
love
rough.
Denzel the actor. I don't necessarily love Denzel the director
What
all the
is
time.
Denzel the director's best movie?
Oh man, I need to go look at what is everything that he's directed.
Antoine Fisher,
Okay, mid,
The Great Debaters,
decent,
uh, Fences,
you know, pretty good ish.
and A Journal for Jordan.
Didn't see that one. Got to be honest. Did you watch that one?
No,
Yeah, that
because
one.
it looked very like, it just looked rough. It honestly looked like, you know what it kind of looked like? It looked a little bit like Ang Lee's, uh, um,
Are you talking about Billy Lynn?
yeah,
Billy Lynn, Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk.
yeah,
That one, that's
um,
got Michael B. Jordan in it, right?
yeah, that's like, it's like a romantic drama sort of story about a soldier, and
Yeah,
yeah, it felt very
great.
Billy Lynn. Yeah, it totally did.
I mean, his best directed movie is probably Fences anyway, and I don't think that's particularly well directed.
I think his best movie is probably Great Debaters.
Great Debaters is pretty good.
It's pretty good. Like it's
They're like Great Debaters and
which
Fences are
have
like
you
3.5
when
stars.
was the last time you watched Great Debaters?
Long time.
He's really good in it. Like he's a spark in that movie.
Well, that's the
Denzel.
thing
And it's
that,
him and
yeah,
like Forrest Whitaker and
that's why I didn't watch A Journal for Jordan, is because he directed it and he's not in it. So
no, he's not. He
I
was
just
like, I'm
don't
gonna
care as much.
yeah, it's the first time he wasn't in one of his own movies.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I was just like, oh, okay. So he's like taking this for hire. He's not actually really wanting to do this.
yeah. That was
So
really kind of the sign where, now he says what, he's only got a handful of movies
but
left
yeah, but
to
no,
act in.
but you're right too. I mean, Kushner, this text Angels in America, the sort of two parts of it, Jay. It was his Broadway debut in 91, 93. So for this to be your debut on Broadway, it's pretty bold.
And the first split, it is again split in half.
Yeah. I believe it still is, if now it's an abridged or I don't I know that they've done various versions of it now. I know they recently did a revival a couple of years ago with Andrew Garfield attached to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, which I think was a
Um,
huge hit, and he got
he got the
a
Tony
lot
for
of
it.
acclaim for.
He
Yeah,
got the Tony for it. But yeah, I mean, Kushner to me is a very I don't know. I know you. I mean, we love Spielberg. You love Spielberg. I love Spielberg. That's. I mean, it's no secret. We do a director watch podcast for Christ's sake. That's what our name of our show
God,
is.
Spielberg would be so fun. There's just so many
There's
movies.
so many. We would. That would be the year. We
He's
wouldn't be able to do
made
anything else.
he's made 30, and I think you have to cover 20 of
20.
them
Yeah. And
at
so
least.
I mean, like you look over at like Blank Check, and they cover like the first half
Yeah, they
or the
split it
second
in
half,
half. Yeah.
and then
Well,
like
they cover everything. So
they
I
cover
I,
everything.
I understand that. But that I was actually talking about this with a friend of the show, Jesse Nussman, the other day, and we went to go see Bamboozled. Two white guys going to watch Bamboozled in a movie theater. Um, and one, that's a fantastic movie. But we were also talking about, he was bringing up how our podcast is kind of similar to Blank Check. And I think one of the things that our podcast can do as opposed to Blank Check is we can cover directors like Mike Nichols. If you're covering every single movie in a director's filmography, Mike Nichols is hard to cover
Yeah.
because there are 6 or 7 movies that nobody cares about. And that makes it tough, but we get to kind of skip over them and talk about them in between, which I think is kind of a cool thing that we get to do. It's not fully exhaustive, but it allows us a little bit of flexibility in the directors we cover. So anyway, apropos of absolutely nothing, that was a conversation I had the other day. But let's 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 talk MVPs. Give me your top 5 performances of Angels in America.
Does it have to be in like order?
Yeah, I need 5 to 1 in order, my friend.
God damn it. You almost put me on the spot here. I didn't
I
actually
know
rank it. Um,
it's tough.
I think Meryl's number one.
You think Meryl is number 1?
Yeah. I think
Interesting.
I think the totality of what she does and how she services everybody else, I think is great. I think Jeffrey Wright's number two. It's not
Okay,
surprising. Um, I think Patrick Wilson's number three.
he's great.
I think he's fantastic in this. I think Emma Thompson's wonderful.
Hmm.
And
So are
then
you going her 4?
I'll go her four because she's just delivering.
Yep.
Um,
She's serving.
she's serving. She's flying. She's defying fucking gravity in this
She's
thing.
defying gravity. That's exactly right. She's pulling
And
in a Revo.
I'm gonna leave Pacino out. I'm gonna go Justin Kirk.
You're leaving Pacino out.
Yeah, but it's just to prop up Justin Kirk, who I think is extraordinary in this, and I think he's
Okay, so
wonderful.
go through that again.
So I'll go Merrill,
Mhm.
Wright, Wilson, Thompson, Kirk. That's my starting five.
All right, we're gonna have a different order here.
That's
I'm gonna
fine.
go 1 right,
Yeah, that's fair.
2 Pacino.
Hooah.
I can't believe you don't have Pacino in your
It's
5.
he's like six. Like, what do you want me to do?
That's unbelievable. 3, I'll probably go Patrick Wilson.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm.
so we're the same there. Okay.
Yep, yep. 4, oh boy, Emma Thompson. I think she is so good in her
That
kind
was
of
my number
limited
four. See
screen
how
time. Yeah,
see
so we've got it. We've got some similar, but I don't have Streep in my 5, and you don't have Pacino in your
who's
5.
your number five?
I think my 5 is probably Justin Kirk.
Okay, so 3 through 5 we were the same. God,
That's very interesting.
we can't
Yeah.
go through a goddamn ranking.
But the
without
interesting
being
thing, I guess,
same.
is that I have Pacino so high, and you have Streep as 1, and I don't have
Yeah,
Streep,
I
who's
think Meryl's great in
the
this.
show. She is. She's great.
Yeah.
But again, it's like there's no weak link in this
I think it's because for me, for Meryl,
movie
she's the
or
character.
show or whatever you
She's
want to call
like
it.
she's the again the thing that connects everything. Her growth. It's also too. There's just something about watching her, sort of the culmination of everything she's done with Nichols, and seeing her being that sort of veteran within Nichols's filmography, and her coming in here and out dueling or going to it through a duel with Pacino in so many scenes, or the phone conversation on the phone with Patrick Wilson at the house is just incredible.
That one's very
Her arrival to
fascinating.
New York,
Yeah.
the, the scene in the, I think it's the third or fourth, I think it's the fourth episode, I believe, or something, with Mary Louise Parker, which made me kind of laugh. Yeah, there's just something about Meryl. Also, like early 2000s Meryl was like sort of a renaissance for me, and
She's a
she was just on a roll
phenomenal
there.
actress.
Yeah, she's Meryl fucking Streep.
I think she's pretty good.
But Jeffrey Wright's, it's very close. Like Wright is extraordinary in this thing.
He's
It's
playing
like
all those multiple roles.
he's a bolt of
And
lightning
honestly,
in
the
every
whole time I
scene.
was like, is Pryor's friend are Pryor's friend and the nurse the same character? I couldn't figure it out for a while because he was also Mr. Lies. I was like, is he playing three characters or four characters or it's
Playing
it's
four.
asking a lot of him. And he's absolutely phenomenal in every role that he's asked to play.
No, and it's like it is the tap dance that some actors do when they play someone within the gay community of, it's a lot of like, weirdly, watching Jeffrey Wright in this, Jay, was like watching Nathan Lane in The Birdcage. It is like a tap dance between, or a high wire act between going over the line and in finding empathy still within there and not going over the line in terms of
That's
being
kind of how I
over
feel about
flamboyant.
Justin Kirk too,
Yeah, where
where
it's
he
like
literally in the
these
show
could be
says,
stereotypes if you want to be, but they're not,
well,
because
he
these actors
literally
are,
says
you
in
know,
the show, I believe Meryl, Hannah, Mrs. Pitt, at one point says, are all of you like this? And he says, or I think he says, is this typical of you or something like that? And he says, this is stereotypical. And it's a really good line and also reflective of the performance and the character, but it's honest. It
yeah,
is of a piece with that character, which is a very delicate thing to pull off, but Justin Kirk really, really pulls it off. So
yeah. Well, and then also
good for him.
with Wright, he is this larger than life character in everybody's life. But and we see that in sort of the first half too, right? He's this jolt of energy when he goes and visits Pryor. He's Mr. Lies within
God, Justin Kirk played
with
Scooter Libby in Vice.
that's right, he did. And then in Harper's life, in Mary Louise Parker's life, he's this,
Yeah.
this escape, right, from the pains.
Hmm.
But then when you see him as a nurse and when he's with Roy, you see that wall break down, and you see that there is pain underneath all of that performance that he's sort of putting on for everybody, and that he's tired of watching people die of this disease. And it doesn't matter if it's his friend or a despicable person like Roy Cohn. He's tired of having to treat death all around them. And there's just a way that Wright's able to carry it. There's a lot of external pain that he brings into this performance, and yeah, it's extraordinary work from him.
Yeah, it is. I mean, across the board, there's not a bad performance. I mean, neither of us mentioned Ben Shankman, but he's
Oh, he's
incredible
great.
as Lewis. And also Lewis is one of the more complicated figures in the film because he is, and it almost is complicated. It's sort of encapsulated by the final scene of the miniseries when he is talking about, oh, the Israel has a real right to exist as a country, but also Palestine has a right to this land. And then I think it's Jeffrey Wright as Belize, who is like, and also this part, and Lewis is like, oh well, let's hold up a little bit. Maybe there's a middle ground here, which kind of speaks to his whole thing, where he
Yeah.
is willing to try and accept a gay Mormon Republican as his lover while also abandoning his liberal
Ideology and fundamental beliefs.
his
Yeah.
liberal lover,
Yeah.
the man that he claims that he loves, in the name of, again, I think it's practicality, I think it's ease, I think it's convenience, and I think it's detestable in so many ways, and especially when you see Pryor in his apartment just in shambles, in utter pain. And he is, we need to talk about Pryor more, because this arc of Pryor as the quote unquote prophet
Prophet.
and the one who is visited by the angel.
Yeah.
Why is it Pryor who is visited by the angel? Is it because he is the one who has AIDS? Is it because he is the one who is closest to death?
Yeah. And I think he's the one vulnerable enough to accept it and needing a sort of, and he's lonely and isolated, and this spirit calls to him, to then be the the messenger of
What
of
is he prophesizing?
what do you think it's prophesizing, Jay?
I don't know. I'm asking
um
because there are many mentions of the end of the world, but are they, is that the end of people's personal world?
is it the end of the world of
Is it the
reckoning
end
with
of
this disease?
innocence?
You know what
Is
I
it
mean? It,
the end of ethics? I can't imagine that's the prophecy, though, because it is a film that ends with understanding and people coming together. Or maybe that is them defying the prophecy,
yeah.
which is very possible. The prophecy is saying that Pryor is meant to enter some sort of afterlife, but the prophet defies the very prophecy that he has been asked to deliver.
Well, as if he's not fulfilling a prophecy that has been,
He is denying the prophecy,
well, that's some,
rejecting the prophecy.
was the prophecy just death itself of AIDS? Is it not? At times you could even look at it as that. And I kind of what I felt like, where it is this, the fight, right? To find a reason to live, to find a reason to not be alone, to find a
AIDS
reason
as a
to,
death sentence.
exactly, and to put this thing to bed once and for all, defy a stereotype, defy the
Gravity.
statistics. Oh, okay, yeah, that's not, I wasn't going there, but yes, but to rise above that when others were not strong enough to do so, and we see those others throughout the show, right? Like we see others who are struggling, whether it is with their, their mental constitution, whether it is with their sexuality and the fluidity of that, through Patrick Wilson's character, through their acceptance of death, when it is someone they love, acceptance of someone's sexual orientation, acceptance of their fate. In Roy Cohn, there's all of this idea of acceptance, and I think within Pryor being a prophet, he is accepting that he does not want to die, and I think he is
Mm-hmm.
then,
While being told repeatedly that life, the afterlife, is far more pleasant and um,
there's a release.
desirable
Yeah,
than life on Earth.
and
Again, it's that a
and
matter
he
of life and
rejects
death thing
and he
that
rejects that
I think is
notion.
so powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too. I was thinking a lot of, yeah, I was thinking a lot of that, and Jay, this is why I love you, buddy, because you watch the TV shows that I do. I was thinking a lot about the question that Lindelof asks at the end of the last episode of the Leftovers. And the
I
idea,
mean, one of the great shows.
one of the great shows, but this is like, I think this is a show that if this show that we're talking about today doesn't
I agree with you.
exist,
That
we
was
don't
my
get that
claim.
show.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
agreed.
I agree.
Agreed.
And that's a fundamental question that Carrie Coon has asked that we don't see, right? Which is so brilliant about that. And you know, we don't see that she had a chance to go back, right, to the life that she had. But
They
she's,
pull a loss and say we have to go back.
yeah, exactly. But instead that she chose to come back and accept her way
Remember
in the
Matthew
world.
Fox?
Stop trying to go on a tangent while I'm literally
That
talking
was a
right
long
now.
time ago.
It
I
was
mean,
a
I
long
know
time
you're
ago.
talking about one of the most important parts of this whole series. So you
And
know what?
I think that
I will
that's,
abstain.
thank you, buddy. But I think that that's sort of what I thought here too, is that I think that by the end, he's accepted that death will come for me at another time. And it doesn't have to be through a disease that's plaguing so many people. It can be a normal way that just like everybody else seated around him will die. And
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be defined by the death of this disease, which is a fundamental thing to you really have to take into the text of all this, because AIDS is such a the backdrop of really everything involved within this story.
Yeah, it is
And
astounding. It really does sound like AIDS, not obviously in all of America, it was devastating in the 80s. But my understanding is that in New York City, it was just killing people left and right. It was like astounding how catastrophic it was in New York City. And I think this really captures that. While not dwelling on the horror of it, I think it really captures that vibe and that idea, which I think is far better than if it just was an exercise of misery, which this is not. It's often very funny. It is
yeah,
often very um,
it's slice of life. It's very much the
spiritual. There's this magical realism to it,
complicated,
and also this
you know.
fantasy element to it, obviously, that is so good. And the it, I'm gonna say it. It's the most cliche thing in the world. Occasionally, a little Lynchian.
Yeah.
Let's
You
be
think so?
honest.
You think so?
I mean, when in the first or second episode, when Harper sees the um, glamorous prior in front of the mirror, and
Yeah.
there were all these big curtains around them. I couldn't help but think of Twin
Oh,
Peaks.
oh, the Red Room.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just like just any of her
Also, I mean,
sequences of you.
Lynch front of mind right now, obviously.
Yeah.
So it,
Very much so.
you know,
Well, Jay, you know who was do we I don't know, you mentioned this I think on previous episode, but you know who was going to be involved in the creation of this miniseries? It wasn't Nichols originally, right? It was going to be
it was Altman.
It was Bob Altman.
Yeah,
And I was thinking
trying
about
to think
him.
of what that would be.
I mean, I was kind of thinking a little bit about a movie that you love. I was thinking a lot about Shortcuts. I was thinking a lot about
Sure.
Nashville. I was thinking about his movies that sort of interconnect people through a larger
I was
thing.
just thinking of Brewster McCloud because of the wings.
That that too. But I was thinking about
Shortcuts is probably the answer, though.
Shortcuts, or I mean, even
And I
Nashville's
think he
kind of
was
the answer.
really, from what I read, he was really indulging in the fantasy elements. So
He
I think it was
was,
going to be weird.
and he wanted to do like 2.5 hour movies. That's how he wanted to kind of do it.
Yeah.
So he wanted to
Which
shave.
honestly, at the end of the day, is basically what this was.
Yeah, he just wanted
Was
to shave off
five-ish hours.
yeah, he wanted to shave off an hour. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but
For
that
this,
when
yeah.
you account for the credits in the opening sequence, which is pretty long, it
Yeah,
probably ends up being
probably around there.
5:15, five and a
Yeah.
half. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're probably right. Um, I don't know. I think that Bob would have been a really interesting choice. Um, and that's in he was developing it shortly after the play released. So this was in 93, 94 when he was doing it. So this is around the time of Shortcuts.
This
is
would
what
have
he said.
been when was
Post Shortcuts is when this would have come out.
did the
So
player come out before Shortcuts? It
92.
did.
Yeah, 92.
Yeah, it was the player then Shortcuts.
God, I love the player.
Player just
God,
absolutely
what
rocks.
a fucking beautiful, kind of mean at times movie. There's nothing better than Altman. Truly is the best.
One of the greats.
Favorite Altman?
Shortcuts.
Shortcuts? All
I
right.
know that is a very hot take for you, but that
I
is
told you I'd give it a rewatch.
that's probably one of my 5 to 10
When
favorite
we did,
movies of all
listen for the
time.
listeners out there, when we did the old show, we did one of the first series, big series we ever did was an Altman series.
Yeah.
And
I watched 34 Allman
he
movies.
watched 34 Altman movies. And Jay thought, hey, wouldn't it be great we do Shortcuts and Magnolia in the same episode because they're like cousins to one another.
They're, yeah, sister movies.
Yeah. And it was probably not good to put a PTA movie up against anything else for me. And it's just, and you know that. So I want to kind of give Shortcuts its own
Maybe that's
run.
what it was.
Yeah, I think that that really is what it was. And I think I just need to watch Shortcuts on its own. But I got to carve out that 3 hours. I'll find time this year.
It's a
I
long
will.
one.
I will do it this year.
You know what? Have you ever seen the Altman
McCabe,
Tanner 88 HBO series? That was
no.
one of the early HBO miniseries.
Have you seen it?
No, that's maybe the one Altman
Is it on
important
HBO
thing
Max?
I've never seen. I believe it is. I'm almost certain it is.
Tanner 88?
Tanner 88.
I'm going to look this up right now. Um, and my answer is McCabe Miss Miller, and you know that.
Oh, it's a
Um,
phenomenal film. And then he also did Tanner on Tanner in 2004, which it appears that it was on the Sundance channel. That's
I
bizarre.
don't think it's on HBO anymore. Tanner with two N's or one N?
Two N's. Tanner apostrophe 88.
This is riveting podcast
Maybe it's not.
material.
Maybe it's not on there anymore. That'd be very
No,
disappointing.
it is not on there
Damn,
anymore.
HBO.
The Max took it off.
Get your act together.
Man, they're really just a studio right now that Warner Brothers. Just frustrating. A
Is
frustrating
that the
entity.
weird thing about you and me both is that I don't think we have. Is Nashville like fringe top five for
It's
both
like
of us for Altman?
5 or 6, right?
Yeah, I think that's kind of where it is for me. I think
Because
I'm
like One Kiss is up
Shortcuts,
there, and
McCabe, Long Goodbye, Player,
yeah,
then maybe no, Three Women is
Three Women's
probably
up there.
before. Nashville's not in my five.
Yeah. But then you know what
You
else is
love Popeye.
Papa is mine. I'm a
You're a
sailor man.
Popeye. You're a fiend for some Popeye.
Yeah, I love me some
Actually, it might be.
Popeye.
God, Three Women might be my two.
Popeye's great.
It's probably my three.
Popeye rules.
Popeye
Popeye,
is really, really good.
5 stars. 5 star masterpiece.
Four. I'll give it 4.5.
I give it 5. I give it, you know who else likes it? PTA. Put it in Punch Drunk.
That's true.
That is true. He loves me. It's a great needle drop in the movie. It's a great
Agreed.
needle drop in Popeye. But it would have been just. I think Nichols is perfect for this. I just there are things that he gets to do that visually speaking, Jay, in the terms of his career, he hasn't flexed like this in a long time.
God, it's so nice to see him really play with form again
It
for
really
the first
was.
time in so long.
And I think it's his ability to be like, I have this behemoth of a project in my lap.
He says this is maybe the thing he's most proud of anything that he's directed.
I mean, again, I would probably say in terms of his directorial achievements, it is definitely in the top 3. Like
Agreed.
it's also there is a way he could have just screwed this whole thing up. And I think him being a master of the stage, that's the difference between him and Altman, and why I think this is better suited for him
Oh,
too.
Altman's plays on film are
I
plays
know, but
on
like,
film.
but this is a
No,
master
no,
of this. Yeah,
this is a movie.
yeah.
If you watch this, you wouldn't even know it was based on a play.
If they just sat you at a film festival for 6 hours and made you watch this, you'd be
Yeah.
like, "I'm watching the new Mike Nichols movie." They
Wow,
call
this
it
is
a
really
film,
impressive that they wrote this script.
so Mike Nichols could do this.
Carte blanche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they do call it a film by Mike Nichols. They do not call this a series or or whatnot. Like it's in the opening credits. It's
Yeah.
a film by Mike Nichols, which
This does
I
feel
saw
like
that.
one of those things where if you didn't have the credits, it could play back
It
to
could
back to
just
back and not feel
you
weird.
could just keep it going. Take out the
Yeah.
credits. You know what I mean? At the end.
Yeah. Maybe some
Um,
interstitials, but
yeah.
yeah.
And this played over like a week on HBO. Like this was an event. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When it premiered, like everything was shut down. The world. We've got something to show you. And now, yeah, I think Jay, we take for granted the miniseries or televisions because every movie star. I mean, for Christ's sake, like Meryl's on like every episode now of Only Murders in the Building. For Christ's
I
sake,
know that's what I
you
was
know.
thinking about was I was like, this must have felt monumental that Meryl was in this at this
Pacino,
time. And now I'm like,
and I was
oh
like,
yeah,
oh
she's
yeah,
been in, Big Little Lies
yeah,
and Murders in the Building. And yeah, it just doesn't mean what it used to because it used to be a massive, massive deal. Um,
yes,
but at the time, it just huge, huge.
for sure. Oh, absolutely huge. No, I mean for sure. Anything. I mean, I feel like we haven't talked about Joe a lot because Joe is a
No, we
really,
have not actually,
really.
hardly at all.
I wanted to talk to you about Joe and what you thought about. What you? Oh my God. I did not know that Nichols direct. I'm sorry. We'll get to Joe in a
Oh,
second. This
okay,
is.
here we go.
Do you know that Mike Nichols directed the revival in 2012 of Death of a Salesman with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Andrew Garfield?
Yeah, of course I do.
Oh my God, I did not know that that was him. Anyway, absolutely incredible. Yeah, if you've ever seen clips of that, Jay, do yourself a favor and go online and watch that. That is,
PSH, he got a real affinity for PSH late in his career.
I mean,
That's called good taste.
we talked about him on the Charlie Wilson's War episode.
Hmm.
I just miss him
You know what?
so
I think he's
much.
quite good in that movie.
He's he's still probably he like Denzel's my guy. PSH Mount Rushmore guy for me.
How do you, yeah, I mean, how can he not be?
I
He
feel
was
like I
unbelievable.
feel like he never delivered a bad performance. He's one of those guys that like even if
I mean,
he was
I
in a
haven't
bad
seen
movie,
everything, but
I'm
even in garbage like Along Came Polly, he
so
should have
you
been nominated for an Oscar.
he should have been. It's an incredible just for the basketball scene alone. Make it
Yeah.
rain. Uh, but anyway, just couldn't believe I was looking that up. I was like, who did that?
Yeah, he
But
had
anyway,
done a Nichols play or two before that too.
yeah, man,
So
probably just to sit and ask Andrew Garfield a question about that would be
he's
worth the
coming on the
time.
pod.
He's coming on the pod. We'll get Andrew Garfield on. We
He's gonna
got to
be on
get
for
him
the
on.
Elaine May series.
There you go. Um, Jay, Joe. I think that
Yeah,
that's
Joe.
the
Maybe the most
big.
complex character in the whole thing.
Yeah, I would think so. I
Patrick Wilson
mean,
is phenomenal.
yeah, he's incredible in this. I mean, speak to him a little bit. I mean,
Looking like a snack.
yeah, looking like a snack and a half.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, he's amazing. The he is one of the characters who you are most like, how are they going to redeem this guy? And it is interesting that they don't give him kind of an epilogue at the end. I was waiting to see him at the end of the movie, especially since we see his mom. And so it's hard to kind of figure out where exactly the movie lands on him, especially after he punches Lewis towards the end. But this idea of a Mormon Republican uh, lawyer who is sort of Roy Cohn's protege and him trying to discover his homosexuality and embracing that world is just such a complicated idea. And you do sympathize with him as he goes on this journey, even though really the person who is hurt most by that journey is Harper. And he has a regrettable disregard for Harper, which results in her having these visions from just being addicted to these pills as the film. I'll just call it a film. Why not? As the film goes
Let's call
along.
it that. Yeah.
Now that we're almost 2 hours into this, I'll call it a film. Um, but he is. Do you? I'm trying to. I don't know if like is the right word, but I think the film lands on in the same way that it lands on a sense of understanding for pretty much everyone in the movie. I think it lands on an intense sense of understanding of Joe, even after there's this really tragic scene of him um, having sex with Harper, and Harper realizing that he closes his eyes every time he has sex with her. And then also she stands naked in front of him and she says, "What do you see?" And he says, "Nothing." And it's like, am I supposed to be very angry that he has known this the whole time and hidden it and at the expense of Harper? Or am I supposed to be happy that he has acknowledged who he is and tried to work himself into an environment that he previously had completely rejected? But also, he's been Roy Cohn's protege. Like, he is Anakin Skywalker to Emperor Palpatine. Like, that is who he is in this movie. But also, Anakin Skywalker like got a tough draw, you know? I mean, it's
You,
it's it's just a
you think
very,
so?
very complex.
Oh,
It's
he
just
just.
very complex.
You think Joe understands the high ground situation more?
Joe had the high ground on Lewis.
Yeah.
But in the end, Joe was the one who fell into the volcano.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
A
Nice
little bit of the
metaphor. A
opposite.
little bit of the opposite there.
Yeah.
Um, I do have this is yeah. Joe's a very
It's the
complex
most, is
character.
it the most complicated character
Yeah, it's the
in
most
the,
it yeah, I know that
I think it
that's
is.
because it's the most unsure character, unsure of themselves, and complex, and also much like Lewis and how they sort of speak to one another. I think for at least Joe's perspective, he there is not a remorse of the damage that he has caused to
Mhm.
the person he loves, which is Harper.
Which is why I think Mary Louise Parker gives a great performance in this film.
Okay. Um, and I think that for Joe, you're right. I don't know if necessarily he has put up or embedded Cone nearly to the extent of, like someone like your analogy, the Emperor Anakin Skywalker. But
A perfect analogy that everyone will find very compelling and respectful.
yes. But I do think that I mean Joe is conflicted in you can see Roy throughout the first couple of episodes sort of trying to groom him, trying to figure him out, trying to
Oh yeah. Make him
um
his apprentice, perhaps.
I would think more so. I would think sexually prey on him at times, even more
Yeah.
so, Jay, than that. It's also just the hand of the devil on his
Yeah, because
back.
Joe is an actual lawyer who he can really
Yeah,
benefit from.
exactly. Well, and also to use him as sort of a puppet to
Joe
clear
loves
his
telling
name.
people that he loves them.
Yeah,
Tell you that much.
yeah.
Tells Roy he
But
loves him. Tells Lewis he loves him.
but he won't tell it to really Harper
Tells
and mean it.
Harper.
Yeah, but he
He,
doesn't mean it with Harper. And
but you don't
that's
know that at first. I think it does a good job of not overplaying its hand early.
But I do think also too with Joe, I mean, there is this overwhelming feeling of the closeted gay man in the middle of with a religious background is something that is not even, it's still very relevant today, but it's again the choosing and how you come to realize who you really are, right? For Joe. And I do agree with you, Jay. I don't really feel like there is a resolution for Joe. I feel like
Hmm.
he sort of has his, he's kind of actually sad. He's probably the saddest character in the film, to be honest with you,
Agreed. But I mean, let's
because
go down the
sort
line and see.
because
Do
he's,
we get?
well, hang on, because
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
he sort of pushed back after his, in my, this is how I interpret it, and maybe you can see it a different way, but it kind of feels like he is pushed back into his life and into essentially the closet, without Harper, without
Mm,
Lewis, and he becomes the loneliest character. And in
mm,
a lot of ways, it's sort of, it weirdly echoed Roy's death in a lot of ways, for me, and how Roy is
that's interesting.
essentially alone and there's no one really there by his side. And I'm not saying that Lewis is turned into a big bad Republican villain at the end, but he does essentially continue to take that role on instead of rejecting the position of power that he's been put in, rejecting the office that he's in, rejecting the politics that he's in, rejecting everything after in which he had this romantic excursion or a romantic awakening, and he's not accepting of really anything. He wants to just kind of go back to the way it was, the domesticity, the lying, the walks in the park and everything. And I do think that it's a very sad, tragic, ending for a character that had all the potential, right? But again, a potential to,
Hmm.
and all the tools to be a prophet, to be able to rise above their station, and not accept the rules in which they've been placed in, right? For Pryor, it's the rules. He is the rule that breaks the exception of this disease, and the other disease that is shown, which is for Joe, which is the closet and Republican values and the power that Roy Cohn has sort of put over him. And then you're right, Jay, to that certain extent, he does maybe become Darth Vader in the end because he's back in that office and he still has the same sort of beliefs and he's never evolved. He just has hurt more people, and those people have left him because they've become stronger due to those
Even his
acts.
mom.
Even his mom, like, think about that. Your former lover and your mom are now best friends, and you're nowhere in the picture in the end. Your wife is gone. All you have left is whatever Roy Cohn promised you. That's
Hmm.
it. Like, that is
So,
that's it's really rough, but you do feel for him on his journey, and you feel for people like that, but you can only feel, I think, up to a certain point,
yeah,
because if you're not willing to accept it, then you're only harming yourself and others. And it's going to be a long road possibly for Joe to ever feel like that, if he ever does feel like he can ever get around that.
agreed. Joe might be the one character worse off in the second half
Yeah,
than he is in the first half.
because when we get through, if we were just talking about the first half, he has sort of like
He's finding himself.
he's finding himself, he's opening up, he's discovering, and he finds what he wants, which is, and then I think in a lot of ways too, like, he, by Lewis going through that experience, he realizes that somebody like Joe's not what he wants. He thinks that he has that, but it's not what he wants, and there's a massive, amount of forgiveness that goes along with what he has to have with Pryor, and again, it goes back to then forgiveness of those acts there too, and how
Mhm.
much that he's not that Lewis isn't a short term fix either for Joe's fantasy of what he
He
wants.
also becomes obsessed with Lewis.
Yeah,
I think sincerely, but also because he is short-sighted and doesn't even understand himself, and still, I think, to a certain extent, rejects himself, at least publicly, front-facing. He still wants to maintain this aura of this um, Reaganite lawyer. And it is the scene where Lewis runs through his um, decisions on the appeals that he has decided on is pretty tragic. And it is just this idea of his complete rejection of his own impulses. And that is sort of his ultimate undoing and why we don't see his conclusion. And he is, so if I go down the line, Roy, we get closure on him. Joe's mom, we get Harper, we get um, Emma Thompson. It's sort of impossible to get closure on her characters, but I guess we kind of get it. Pryor, we get Belize, we get Lewis, we get, and those are the main people. Joe is the only one left out of that equation, which
Yeah,
is interesting.
I think it is interesting. I think it also is the door closing on. I think it's the door closing on the Reagan era, as well as also those ideas and the fear that of
And
those
a lack of
policies
respect.
and the lack. Yeah, and I think well, just the policies that that time period had on gay people, and since that time is the hope of a more accepting world for
A
them to live
rejection
in.
of his hypocrisy.
I think of the values that he represents and the
Yeah.
values that Roy represents. And I think that by the end, when you see them all sitting by the fountain, I think that that is an idealistic view of the potential future of what a world could be like if we accepted one another with each other's flaws and we owned up to those flaws. And I think that that is a far more I think that's a fascinating ending. It can also be looked at potentially very schmaltzy if you want to.
Hmm.
I don't think that that's the case. I think that that is the hope, and honestly, kind of been the reality since then, and sort of how history is played on it is that we have, for the most part, until contrary to what current administrations want to believe, we have become a more open society and accepting because gay culture, LGBTQIA plus culture is now all within what we know and we see, and it's provided us with not just great films or books or television and things to discuss, but it's also everybody in life knows somebody that is part of this community. There's no way you can't because it's a part of humanity. And I think that that's what's sort of the brilliance about those final
Hmm.
moments on the final episode and sort of the message that Kushner puts forward and why they still resonate.
God, the
And yes,
final episode is so good.
and I think that yeah, it's gonna look. I think it's Kushner kind of, even though yes, you can sympathize with Joe and you hope that they maybe do find that change, but that road is a harder road and a longer road, and sometimes you don't have time to wait.
Hmm.
And the urgency to fix that road is not as vital as others. And you just hope it has to fix itself. And it's both it's both a little cynical, and a little harsh, and a little bit optimistic,
But
and
it's
and it kind of
it's
dances with it. Kind of
understanding at
yeah,
every turn.
yeah. And so that's what kind of just makes it ultimately human, Jay.
Yeah.
In
It
the end,
is quite human.
yeah.
And this film does not hate Joe. It
No, it
absolutely
doesn't.
does not.
But it leaves him right where, kind of where we left him
Yeah.
at the start.
It leaves
Only,
him, yeah,
only
sort of
much more
in
lonely.
purgatory a
Yeah,
little bit. Yeah.
yeah. That's probably the best way to say it. He's in a bit of a limbo,
I
and
normally figure out the best way to say it.
look at you, like you know what you're doing
Thanks,
around
man.
here.
But yeah, that is crazy. It was released December 7th to December 14th.
Yeah, They just were like, let's
Back
do
to
one
back to
and a
back to back
back
to
to back
back.
to back to back to back. And then you know what they would do? They would play them. They would play the first episode like an hour before it, and then release the new one. And then they would, yeah, that's what kind of the old model. Now they do it
When
like
because you had to be there to
you had to
watch it.
be there and you had to record it. Yeah, you had to watch it. You couldn't miss it. It
Yeah.
was when Jay they called it must see television, as in you
Yeah.
must see this shit now.
You
You
know, I
know,
think I'm
I
gonna
think there was probably some
shorten that
TiVo back.
into
There's
something that
probably
I think kind of rhymes. Must see TV.
there you go. And probably was some. When did TiVo get invented?
We're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, we're gonna get this right now. I believe it was probably around this time,
It was
right?
definitely around then. TiVo still exists, by the way.
Yeah, it does.
It premiered in '99. When was it
99.
normalized,
I
though?
want to say like 2002.
It was
That's when
something like that. It might have been right around here.
because I feel like that's when I started. When did Lost start? 2004,
Something like that.
something like that. Do you watch Lost?
Yeah, watched all of Lost. Loved Lost.
Love Lost. Yeah, that was must see TV every week.
What a sloppy show. Love it so much.
Yeah, but you know what? Love the slop
It was just
sometimes.
that's old TV because they had to come out with 20
23.
episodes a season.
But they were
Yeah.
they were one of the first shows I remember on network television, Jay, to be like, no, we're gonna do
Later in the
yeah
series.
in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fourth in like the third to well no like the fourth
I
to
think it was
sixth
later than
season.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like the last half of the series. They were like 13 episodes. That's it,
Yeah.
and they would come in the second half of the year, but they would go
There's
every
probably
week.
about 100 episodes of Lost, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I mean I can look
Maybe
that up if
80
you're looking
to
up.
100.
I'm gonna say, what do you want to bet? What do you want to put it on?
86.
86. Okay, you are wrong. There are
121.
21.
Oh my God. That is crazy.
That is insane. Yeah, I lied. So the first three seasons had 23 episodes. Season 4 had 14. Then season 5 had 17 episodes. And then season 6 had 18 episodes. That's still a lot.
It's a lot.
And yet I don't know if they answered every fucking thing off of that show in
Yeah.
those 121 episodes. Man, I remember people the Lost watch parties, Jay, and they would watch the
Oh,
first they
I
would
went to
watch the
some Lost
episode.
parties. Yeah.
You went to Lost parties and you were in like what, middle school?
Early high school, probably. Yeah,
Early
we
high
had
school?
like 12 to 15 of us who would always go over to this one guy's house and watch Lost every
On
Sunday.
they weren't on Sundays, they were on Wednesday nights.
Wednesdays, whatever it was. I don't remember.
They would do Alias and then they would do Lost.
Didn't
So it
watch
was like-
Alias, but
You didn't watch Alias?
no.
Good show. Really good show.
Don't think I'll ever get to that one.
You don't think so?
Mm-mm.
I think you'd like it. It's sort of like it's like the birth um of uh of all that stuff too. Like Lost, Alias. If Alias doesn't happen, we don't get Lost. Lost, we don't get Fringe. Fringe, we don't get Lost. We don't get The Leftovers.
What do you
Leftovers,
think
we
has
don't get
more
Watchmen.
episodes? Curb Your Enthusiasm or Lost?
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Lost.
How many does Curb Your Enthusiasm? They had like 12 seasons.
120.
Really?
Yes.
Holy shit! How many seasons of Curb are there though?
12.
Oh, okay. That's.
So 10 eps a season.
Did you watch Do you ever watch Curb?
Yeah, Curb is one of the greats.
Did you watch the finale of Curb?
I have not seen the last like 3 seasons of Curb.
Okay.
I need to watch them.
Did you watch Seinfeld?
I've watched like half of Seinfeld, and I
Okay.
think Curb is just R-rated Seinfeld, so I like
Yeah.
it more.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you know what happens at the end of Seinfeld, though.
Yeah,
Like
they
the
all go to
finale.
jail.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you could watch the finale of Curb,
hmm
and you wouldn't have to watch the last 3 seasons. And knowing that knowledge of Seinfeld, it's perfect. It is the perfect.
Interesting.
It is the.
I mean, I gotta watch.
perfect-
I should watch the last three seasons. It's one of the best comedies of all time.
Yeah, Curb rules. Um, I just watch clips of that every now and then. It's perfect. But yeah, HBO was just like Megan and I, my wife, we were talking about this era particularly because I was watching it, and she was just like, "This was probably like some of the great." I know they all talk about like now or a couple of years ago being the golden age of television. I
Hmm.
really do strongly believe like this era of HBO, you mix in things like The West Wing and 24 and Lost and all these other shows there at that time.
Golden era television was after that. It was
Nah, man,
Breaking Bad
these were
era.
all these great stuff. Now I'll take all.
24. We're gonna say
There
24
are
is
seasons of
the
24
golden.
that
There are. I agree with you, but
there are
there's
seasons of
five
24.
other seasons that aren't that very good or
There are
aren't
a
very
couple
good.
seasons of Breaking Bad I can get rid of. Those early seasons of Breaking Bad are rough.
I disagree with you, but
But I will say this about the golden era of television. My favorite television show of all time came out of that era. So,
what was that?
a little show called Mad Men.
Mad Men.
Mad Men.
Never
You
seen the
see,
last two episodes of Mad Men.
what are you doing? What what are you
That's kind
talking
of one of
about?
those things that now I think it's one of the greatest shows of all time. Never saw the last two seasons,
You know that it's now this year
and
is
now it's something that I might just never do as a funny as a bit.
no. I think at the final two episodes you should watch because
I need to. I've actually. I want to start it over actually and watch it all. It is so good.
it's so good. Jay, I
It's
will
so
tell you
good.
that this year is the 10-year anniversary of the final episode of Mad Men. So if you wanted to do the
That's
rewatch,
crazy.
this would be a perfect
I
year to
saw
do.
John Hamm was on the SNL 50 thing, and I was like, is he a big enough deal to be on SNL 50
Who, John Hamm?
anymore? Yeah,
Yeah.
still
Ham's in like a
because of
ton.
Landman.
Well, he's in that. He was on the last season of Fargo. Ham's in
Oh yeah,
everything.
Fargo. America was hooked on the fourth season of
He
Fargo.
got Emmy nominated. I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Like you,
Emmy
you
Schmemmy, that's what I say.
you're just being mad. You're just being mad now. You want to throw
I'm a mad man.
you want to be a madman. You know what? If you do single-handedly the greatest television
I love
performance
John
of the
Hamm.
last 25 years, you can ride that the rest of your
Is that
fucking
right? Is
life.
that the greatest television? You might be right,
Yeah, I know I'm right.
but
I know Variety just did their fucking list and it was a bunch of bullshit and they were like, "Oh, we only can put one person from one show,"
who
and
was the
they
guy in the Big Bang Theory?
Jim Parsons.
Yeah, he might be up there.
They picked Elizabeth Olsen on Mad Men
I mean, she's
over him.
phenomenal in that.
I mean, she's great, but that show's all about it.
Feels a
The
little
show's all
try hard.
about fucking Don. Like we wouldn't even without like they were like without Peggy there would be no. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like the whole
Feels a
show
little
is centered
try
around.
hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a little
I'm like,
much.
it's a
Also,
little
why can't
much.
you have more than one from a show? That's
Yeah,
stupid.
that's dumb. That doesn't make any sense.
Who do they put at number one? Julia
Uh,
Louis Dreyfus,
Dreyfus from Veep.
Jeremy Strong,
Strong's the
Elizabeth
right answer from that
Moss,
show.
Lisa Kudrow in the
I'm
comeback.
back
Four?
for one season of television.
Come on now.
I mean, she's great. Don't get me wrong, but
Carrie
four?
Coon, The Leftovers.
Hell yeah. Is that the right choice for the leftovers?
Yes,
Okay. It's either her or Eccleston, I think, is extraordinary on that.
yes.
Um,
Anyway,
anyway, why wouldn't Tony Soprano be on?
Angels in America.
They excluded the Sopranos. That's
Because it
right.
started in the 90s.
Yeah, I think so. Just
Mm.
dumb.
Ooh,
Oh,
Jessica Walter is Lucille Bluth in Arrested Development. Is that
that's
the one to go with?
from Arrested Development.
Yeah.
If not her, oh God, David Cross
You could go Arnett.
or Annette. How about the whole fucking cast?
Honestly, all of them. That show, man. Until it got to Netflix,
It was the best show ever.
one of the greats. Yeah.
Still one of the
Truly
funniest shows.
my favorite comedy. And I honestly like reject the Netflix season. So it's still, I think, my favorite comedy.
I
But
think it ends kind of just like fine and again and like
Amanda
on the Fox.
Seyfried as Elizabeth Holmes, number 18, one ahead of Peter Dinklage as Tyrion Lannister. This is just insane.
Is that the person you'd pick for Game of Thrones?
Oh boy.
It's not the person I pick.
Who would you pick?
I honestly think Nikolai Coster-Waldau as Jaime Lannister is the most interesting character on that show
It's a good one.
because of the entire fucking arc of that character is so tragic. And much like Joe refuses to change. and accepts the same fate that he had at the beginning of the series, which is to be with his sister and die in the rubble of King's Landing there. So
Man, you can't go wrong with that. Tyrion, though, is phenomenal.
for you people out there, I do know my fucking television shit too. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not just a movie guy. All right.
I'm mostly just a movie guy. I
But he
did
is
just finish Schitt's Creek, and I'm seeing Catherine O'Hara at number 24. Incredible performance.
yeah.
She's unbelievable.
That's who you pick too, right? You have to. There's
100%.
nobody else you could pick from
No.
that.
Ooh, Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Fleabag. I should rewatch Fleabag. Fleabag is so good.
It's like what, like 6 episodes a season?
Yeah, I think there's maybe 15 episodes or something like
No,
that.
like 12. It's less than that. It's not even that many.
Good for them.
That second season of Fleabag is maybe one of the greatest episodes or series I've ever seen.
Incredible
Truly.
stuff. All right.
All right.
Angels in America.
Angels in America. Jay, do you well, Jay,
Yeah.
before we get out of here.
No, final thoughts, please. I have a few
We're
things.
Oh, you need some final thoughts?
Yeah. One.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was about to jump to the end. Jay, final
No.
thoughts we have on Angels in America. Sorry.
The theme song sounds like the Shrek theme. It sounds exactly like
Like all
da-na-na, 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 da-na-na-na.
Well, did Shrek come out the same year as this?
I think Shrek came out first. I think they're copying Shrek.
They're copying Shrek. Oh. Or is it Shrek's influence?
I mean, look,
Right?
Shrek was huge. 2001 Shrek.
So
Thomas
Shrek
Newman,
came out first.
you fraud.
And who did the score for this?
Thomas Newman did Angels in America. Shrek was, you know what? Honestly, can't tell you off the top of my head.
You can't tell me who
Gotta
did
be honest.
Shrek off the top of your head when you have Google right in front of your face.
All right, I got it right here. Harry Gregson Williams, who
There
has
you-
done.
And John Powell.
What did Harry Gregson Williams do that was
He did.
good?
Spike, yeah, because he's got like Spy Game, Phone Booth, Chronicles of Narnia, X-Men, The Martian.
Did The Martian?
He did Team America World Police.
Okay, he's done. He's a
Chicken
good
Run.
journeyman.
He's done the whole Shrek franchise.
John Powell has done.
Harry Gregson
He's
Williams.
also a journeyman.
Harry Gregson Williams just did Gladiator 2.
Okay,
And-
so a little bit of a copycat.
Little copycat.
Oh man, the other guy, John Powell, did Wicked.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, John Powell's known for the How to Train Your Dragon score.
Yeah, ooh, those are good scores.
Those are some damn good scores.
Yeah.
Man.
All right. Anyway, other thing,
Kung Fu Panda stuff too.
the Mark Harris Nichols biography.
Yeah.
Mark Harris, of course, married to Tony Kushner, and his writing on Angels
Who's
in
that?
America is the one time where he really editorializes and is like, what an achievement Angels in America was. The way that Nichols was able to blah, 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 blah. And it's just really funny that he really, look, he
It's
loves
like,
his husband, and you got to
Listen,
respect.
we love a supportive spouse.
It's so funny, though, in the
That's
book.
so great. It's like like journalism.
He really goes into
Husband,
critic
journalism,
mode.
journalism,
Yeah.
journalism.
Like just adorning it, just giving it all the flowers in the world.
Oh, good for him. You know what I mean?
He's a husband guy.
Very much so. All right. Final thoughts. I just think it's great, and I think you should all watch it. It's still extremely relevant.
Really, really go watch it. It is.
It's on
so
HBO
worth it.
Max, and
It's
how did
just
you
Max?
or Max? Well, I'm gonna call it HBO Max because that's what it really fucking is. I'm not gonna buy into the Max stuff. Just like it's Amelia Perez
It's
and
called
not
Max.
Amelia Perez.
It's Perez.
No, it's not. No,
Although honestly, at this point, you don't have to give that.
I'm gonna keep saying it.
You
We're gonna talk about it for another 20 years.
You can pronounce that however you want at this point.
I'm not gonna pronounce it like Jacques Audiard pronounces it. All right. So thank you very much. Jay, before we get out of here, we're gonna test your war season knowledge based on
Oh,
the
we are doing that. Okay.
film we just reviewed, which is a miniseries we just reviewed. In this segment, we like to call It's an Honor to
man.
get nominated. Now, Jay, we're not doing Oscars
I know
today.
nothing about the Emmys.
We are doing The Emmys.
I think you gave me some hints already. So you gave me Pacino for sure, lead.
Uh-huh. Well, And
I'm gonna
how
say,
many Emmys was this nominated for?
oh my God, I don't even know what the Emmy categories are, but I'm gonna go best miniseries.
That is, let me check the notes. That is correct.
I'm gonna go best director of a miniseries. Is that a thing?
Yep, that is correct.
Pacino.
Correct.
Score. Is that a thing?
Score. Let me check the notes here, buddy. Score. You know what? I think you're wrong. I don't think it made it.
Is that a thing though? Do they do score at the Emmys?
Yeah, they'll do score at the Emmys.
Okay.
It didn't make it.
All right, supporting. I'm gonna say it got like a lot. I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna say Streep got in.
Uh, she didn't get into supporting.
Patrick Wilson.
She got into lead.
Meryl Streep was considered a lead in the miniseries Angels in America.
I'm double checking the notes here, sir. That is correct.
Okay, very cool. Patrick Wilson supporting.
That's correct. Nominated.
How about Jeffrey Wright supporting?
Yes, that is your winner.
Ooh, very cool. All right, good for
Yeah.
them. How about Emma Thompson supporting?
Emma Thompson is not supporting.
Is she lead?
Emma Thompson is lead.
The Emmys are so stupid. Oh my God. She's
Keep
in
going.
like five scenes. Okay. Um, did Justin Kirk get in?
Justin Kirk got in supporting actor.
Okay. I just feel like at this time, I'm just thinking almost all of these people got in. Ben Shankman?
He did.
I think that's all of the major players.
Is it?
Brian
Who,
Markinson?
who's your girl?
Oh, Mary Louise, of course.
Yeah.
She got in.
He won all four acting prizes.
I mean, probably
Sp-
deserved. So
sp-
Meryl, Pacino, you said Jeffrey Wright, and Mary Louise.
yes.
Wow. You know what? Deserved. What other category is there writing
Kushner
for
won.
a
Kushner
miniseries?
won writing.
Um,
You want me to tell you the rest?
yeah, just give me the rest. I don't even know what the Emmy categories are.
Outstanding art direction for a miniseries or movie.
Great call.
It won that. It won outstanding casting for a miniseries,
Great
movie or
call.
special. Outstanding makeup for a movie, miniseries or special.
Fair enough. Meryl Streep is that
Outstanding
rabbi.
outstanding single camera sound mixing for
Well, I mean, I was thinking the whole
for the
time,
set
this single camera sound mixing is
for the
unbelievable
second half of the series.
for Perestroika.
Yes, the
Okay.
first half was nominated also in the same
Yeah,
category.
absolute garbage.
In editing, actually, sound editing.
Mm.
Um, the outstanding main title design, the title sequence,
I don't like the title sequence of this.
was nominated. It did not win. Best visual effects, it was nominated
It probably didn't
for.
win because it sounded exactly like Shrek.
Hairstyling, which is different. At the Oscars, they do makeup and hairstyling. Makeup and hairstyling are separated here at the Emmys, and that was only nominated here. Costumes were nominated. Cinematography got a nomination for Perestroika. Overall, buddy, it was 21 nominations and 11 wins.
They split the two halves into different miniseries,
I believe so for the crafts purposes.
even though they came out
What they do,
consecutive.
what Jay, what they do
The
at
Emmys are so stupid.
what they do at the Emmys is they submit different they can submit different episodes for each person and each sort of creative team.
Well, I knew that. Yeah,
Yeah.
isn't director like director of an episode?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah,
but for that purpose,
whatever.
yeah, I know. Are you mad now? Did I upset
I'm
you?
mad. Like I'm mad at the Oscars. I'm pissed
pissed.
off at the Emmys.
Do you want to know what the other series wins were that year?
Miniseries? Yeah, please.
Well, I wasn't gonna. Well, okay, I can give you the miniseries that
Oh, or you
they
do
were
want you
nominated.
want like the shows? Yeah, you give me the big ones.
Okay, so this will be interesting to you.
Okay,
Okay, I'll give you the miniseries first. Okay,
sure.
and then um, I'll give you the rest of it. Okay, so the other miniseries were American Family, which was a PBS show, Hornblower, which was A&E, Suspect,
A&E.
Suspect Six, The Last Witness, which is I believe, like a Helen Mirren thing. And then there was on USA Network Traffic, which
Oh yeah, yeah.
yes, Jay, was in fact a remake or a reboot of the British version,
Of the yes, because that
and
was
then
already a thing, and then it was a movie, and then it was another one.
yeah,
I didn't know
exactly,
about the second one, or like
yeah,
the second series.
yeah. So this is the second series, the American version of the second series.
Wow.
And they all lost, of course, like they had no fucking chance against Angels in America. The uh Now HBO had a great year. They not only won outstanding miniseries, they won outstanding made for television movie for Something the Lord Made, which is a wonderful film with Mos Def and Alan Rickman. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Take your word for it.
It's on Max. You should watch it. I think you'd really like it.
Okay.
It's really, really good. And they also won Outstanding Drama Series for this show called The Sopranos. They beat 24 CSI.
That's the one
Joan,
about the chorus, the choir.
yes, yes. Joan of Arcadia and The West Wing lost to that. Outstanding Comedy Series, Jay, went to what you just said was probably your favorite comedy of all time, Arrested Development.
Yeah, that's how it stayed alive.
It kept
Was it
winning
won Emmys?
Emmys.
Yeah.
Curb Your Enthusiasm, Everybody Loves Raymond, Sex and the City, and Will and Grace were the other nominees. The Outstanding Variety, Music, or Comedy Series went to The Daily Show, and that beat Chappelle's Show, Late Night with Conan O'Brien, The Late Show with David Letterman, and Saturday Night Live. And then Outstanding Reality Competition Series was The Amazing Race. Because The
All right,
Amazing Race,
that's plenty.
yeah,
Yeah.
this was the year. This was a big year. This was a massive upset, Jay. This was the year that this was one of the years that James Spader beat James Gandolfini because he won the Emmy for The Practice, and then he went over and did
Mm.
Boston Legal, and he beat him a couple of times, and he felt like there was one speech that Spader gave where he's like, "I felt like I just stole a sack of money from the mob." And because everybody thought it was just going to keep going to Gandolfini, and
Did Ham never win an Emmy?
Ham won for the final season.
Okay, because Breaking Bad was over.
Yeah, but that was really the reason why, because Cranston kept
Carell never won an Emmy.
Carell never won an Emmy
That
for
is
The Office.
insane.
It's
They
really
gave
stupid.
I'm looking at this list. They gave Caitlin Olsen the nod for Always Sunny.
Really?
I think you got to go Howard
Oh, you're talking about in the
in the Variety Top 100.
Howard.
Howerton.
Oh no, I think it's Day.
Day, I
Gotta
go
give it a.
Howerton.
You gotta go
Oh,
Charlie.
God. Glenn Howerton is,
He's so
oh,
good, but you gotta give it to
I mean, they're
Charlie.
all good. They're all good.
Charlie work alone. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? There's that thing with the mailroom. Have you ever seen that episode where
Yeah,
like
of
they get the
course I
real time?
have.
So
Yeah.
I was talking with Pepe Sylvia. Pepe Sylvia. Like, oh my God, the way Charlie Day is so
Just because
intense.
he's illiterate, he was reading Pennsylvania as Pepe Sylvia.
It's
So
so
funny.
good. It's so good. Yeah, I don't know why it would be.
I see
I
it on
mean, like
every letter I see. Pepe Sylvia, Pepe
Pepe
Sylvia,
Sylvia,
Pepe
Pepe
Sylvia.
Sylvia. Well, here's the good news.
Unbelievable. But
He's already
Howerton,
been fired.
oh, God. Anyway,
Yeah.
all
Oh my
right.
God. Yeah.
It's
Howerton's
a long,
incredible.
it's a long bonus.
It is a long bonus, but the listeners deserve it.
They deserve
And they
it.
asked
You're
for it.
welcome, people.
Yeah, we're just nothing if we don't appease
Yeah.
our peeps out there. Jay, want to tell everybody where they can find you and all your work on the internet? And Jay, give these guys another movie recommendation,
Oh
buddy.
my God, we're even doing a recommendation on the
It's a
bonus
real episode,
episode.
buddy. Let's
I
do
guess
it.
it is, man. Yeah. Letterbox J Ledbetter. Twitter at Mr. J Ledbetter. Anything I'm writing or not writing, you can find on good old awardswatch.com. How about recommendation? I think the most underrated Harry Potter movie. Doing a Harry Potter rewatch right now.
I think I know what you're going to say here.
Well, you tell me what you think I'm going to say.
I think you're going to say Order of the Phoenix.
Order of the Phoenix. What a
Yeah.
movie.
Man, I knew you were going to
I
be an
think
Order
it's
of the
the
Phoenix guy.
second best one.
Whoa.
Yeah, one I
The second best one that you've seen so far in the rewatch or like
no,
overall?
in general, second best one.
Damn.
I even loved it. Yeah, last go around on the Harry Potters. I think it's just such a mature. It's one of the most maturely told films in the entire series. Think it has some rough CGI at times, but as far as storytelling and character development are concerned, I think it's pretty elite. The finale is extraordinarily wrenching and also exhilarating. It's the first time we kind of see a big wand battle, and I think they do a great job with it. It's
Wandoff.
yeah, it's my second favorite, I think. Still got to finish them. I think in my memory, Deathly Hollows, or not Deathly Hollows, sorry, Half-Blood Prince is has some of the greatest moments and also is kind of
A
bad
shit,
at times.
a shit adaptation too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Deathly Hollows is the first one is like entirely half a movie, and the second one is I think very good, but is just kind of an action movie, which is
It's
cool.
pretty, it's kind of a banger.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a banger. It is a banger. You're right. It's a banger. We'll see if I like it more than five. But right now, Order of the Phoenix, number 2. Go watch it.
Jay, I'm glad you're going on this rewatch. I got to ask you, and a tangent at the end of the episode, which makes total sense. What do you think, buddy, about this whole they're gonna make the whole series all over again in television form, and that potentially they want John Lithgow as
I
Dumbledore?
saw Lithgow as Dumbledore. Also, we should mention Michael Gambon in Angels in America.
Yes, he's like got like one or two scenes, and
He's in a couple episodes.
yeah,
He's very good.
yeah, he's good. It's just a
Anyway, the Harry Potter series thing, I'm down with it. It's fine. Um,
Lithgow though.
I don't think it'll ruin anything, and the idea of doing long form, one book per season is very interesting. Lithgow.
I don't know. I don't.
We'll see. I mean, he was on the crown for a long time. He's done the British thing. So, I don't know.
Would you have wanted it? They had floated around Mark Rylance.
Oh, God.
Would you
What
have?
a wasted opportunity.
Would you have liked that?
Yeah. Yeah. He's even good in Ready Player One.
Oh
I
my God.
mean, that guy can do it
What if
all.
he did Dumbledore with the Sully voice from Bones and All?
Oh, it's never Dolly. What is
At,
it? It's never
it's
Dolly
never
when
done
you're with
at
Sully.
Hogwarts with Sully. Yeah.
And that would be great.
I think it's entirely too soon. I think we need
Is it?
another.
Weren't they? Are you kidding me? We get a new Spider-Man every 3 years.
Yeah, but this is, I mean, like Harry Potter is different than like we have to make a movie to keep the rights. You know
If
what I
it's
mean? That's what,
good, it's not too soon. And if it's bad, it's too soon.
I mean, look at the fucking Fantastic Beasts movies and you tell me if it's been too soon.
Well, I've never discovered those secrets.
But you know the crimes.
I do know the crimes.
You do know the crimes. I think one of my favorite things you've ever done is off mic is tell me about your experience watching The Crimes of Grindelwald and the ending of it and how frustrated you were watching that thing.
I
Wait,
think they should have gotten Mel Brooks as
with
Dumbledore.
oh well, that would have been pretty good. Okay,
I'm looking at an IMDb list right now. Someone made a list called Super Old Famous Actors.
well, the problem is
Clint.
here's the reason why, Jay, I think it's so soon is because a lot of the great older actors that we love
Mhm.
played a lot of these characters already. And when they
Yeah, you
and
watch
played,
the Harry Potter movies and it is like
it's fucking stacked.
boom,
Like,
boom, boom.
yeah,
Emma
it's
Thompson is like 19th lead.
Gary Oldman's a character they kill off five
Emma
films
Thompson
in.
clearly only did this because her kids loved Harry Potter.
Jay, remember in Prisoner of Azkaban where Julie Christie's in one scene?
Yeah, rocks.
And they're like, we got a fucking Oscar nominated actress here to come for one day of shoots. Like, that's insane. So, like, that's why a television series, like, it's like you're going to get the bottom barrel of all these people that got rejected the first go around. You need some time to get these actors
Mm.
to get a
You
new
got to
wave
let
of
other
actors
people get
in.
old.
Yeah, and you got to let some of these like 40, 50-year-old guys get to like their 60s and 70s, like, Maggie Smith and Rickman and all those, and all those characters too. So like, I just think that in 10 years, like we're not even 20 years separated from the last film. We're only like 14 years separated from 2011 when Deathly Hallows Part 2 came out. So it's like, I don't know, give it some time. You
Let's
know,
try to look at older actors who might be good as Dumbledore. James Woods.
that's the other thing too, is you're gonna end up getting a lot of American actors to do this, and I don't know if I want that either. It's just gonna feel too soon.
I'm confident they can figure it out.
I think it's gonna be
I'm
terrible.
not confident the show will be
I have no
good,
idea who's running it
but
either.
I
That's
can
gonna be the other.
guarantee you they will put a good cast together.
Yeah, I think it really also just boils down to who do you get as the kids, because
They
they
got so lucky with
they
I mean, it's
got
such a crapshoot when you cast
but they got lightning in a bottle, man.
kids. They did. They killed it.
Those three. I mean,
Yeah.
and Radcliffe's a fucking star. Like, he's a genuinely good
Radcliffe.
actor.
Yeah. He's like 5'6".
Yeah,
He's killing it.
no, he's a genuinely like a good actor, and obviously, Emma Watson sort of like is a great activist, and Rupert Grint's like,
Yeah.
I don't want
Decided to
anything
work
to do
for
with
the
it anymore.
UN.
Yeah,
No,
like,
Rupert Grint does Shyamalan
he
stuff.
does like, yeah, I guess so, but he's like mostly just doing Shyamalan stuff and
Yeah.
not really anything
He was on
else.
the Shyamalan TV show. He was in Knock at the Cabin.
Yeah, so, um, but yeah, no, I'm glad that you guys are. Will you on this journey through the Harry Potter movies? Will you guys, um,
Circle back to the
to the
Fantastic Beasts.
yeah,
It's a good question.
and will you end up finding out what the secrets are?
I do have to find out what those
I
secrets
think
are.
you do. Even if
I
you
gotta
just take
find out
that,
those
I think
secrets.
you just got to take that mission on your own. You know what? You can
Oh,
find
they have
me.
Al Pacino number 80 in the top 100
Could you imagine Al
actors.
Pacino? Hey, Harry.
I cannot believe you don't have Pacino in your top five.
Ooh,
That's ludicrous.
Um, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky at Ryan McQuade 77. You can find all my work here at awardswatch.com. You can find our main show up on the website every Monday. 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify. Greatly appreciated. Go on the website, sign up for the newsletter. It's the best place to get all our news, reviews, interviews, and podcasts all in one place. Movie recommendation of the week. The wife and I uh, put on some nostalgic action movies this past week,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and we went through the Robert Rodriguez El Mariachi
Never
box
seen it.
set box set from Arrow Video.
I mean, I haven't seen all of them. I've seen,
Which ones?
oh, I don't know. Go through them.
So there's El Mariachi.
Of course.
It's the
Haven't
first
seen
one.
it.
The movie was made for $7,000,
$7,000.
and it looks like a
I could pull that out of my wallet right now.
wow. Damn, Jay, big spender. Um,
Carry a lot of cash.
I don't want to know what your actual job is, Jay. It's like an Ozark situation.
Half of the listeners are now searching for me on the street.
His zip code is and then we watched Desperado, and we watched Once Upon a Time in Mexico, but truly an insane performance by Johnny Depp in that movie, if you've ever seen it.
Only one I've seen is Desperado.
And that's
Kyle
what I want.
MacLachlan 87 for Twin Peaks: The Return is criminal.
That's what I wanted to recommend, which is Desperado, which is the best of the bunch. A complete jump ahead from 3 years, which was debut. El Mariachi was Rodriguez's debut, And then clearly you can tell that he hung out with Quentin Tarantino, was like, maybe I should have some dialogue and actually Tarantino in my film in the first act. But I think also the movie is extremely hot and a silly, fun action film and has some truly great kills. And I just gotta say, Antonio Banderas, like one of our greats in general.
He's the best.
Him and Selma Hayek, though, my God, the sexiest pair maybe on screen ever in this movie. Like they are smoking hot, red hot. Watching the trilogy, it was a little like watching the Good, Bad, the Ugly trilogy, The Man with No Name. Though
Hmm.
that series is obviously far superior than what Rodriguez has given us here. But Desperado, extremely fun movie, great action film. All of them under 2 hours, which is great. So you can
We
go
love
and
to
have a
see
good
it.
time.
A lot shorter than
And
this pod.
a lot shorter than this pod for sure. But we also didn't make this podcast 6 hours long like the miniseries, so that at least we didn't do that.
Good point.
But Jay, that's going to do it for this week. We will be back next week or the next episode at least, to discuss Elaine May and start the Elaine May
Wow.
movie series. I'm really excited. And gonna miss Nichols, though I'm sure he's gonna come
It's
up
been a fun ride.
a couple of times maybe throughout the May
No,
series
we're
for
not going to
sure.
talk about
We're
him
not
in
gonna
the
talk
Elaine
about
May
Mike
series.
anymore. Are we done with him?
Banned.
All right. Well, sorry, Mike. But listeners, thank you all so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you all next time.